Chapter 2469. Women. Yes. Tall women. Yes. Tiger's heart suddenly sank to the bottom. He thought of a person who also terrified him, Gaia. Tiger's fear of Gaia was more direct. Chen Zhao had never attacked him before, but Gaia, almost all of Tiger's techniques, had come from Gaia. No matter how strong Tiger became, Gaia could always make him lose all ability to fight and move with one blow. After not seeing Gaia for more than a year, Tiger had almost forgotten about her. But Gaia had suddenly appeared and returned to his memory in such a way. The entire bar, the gang's headquarters, had dozens of people. Disappeared just like that? Only the passers-by nearby had some impression of her. This mysterious terror made Tiger's hair stand on end. Now, the two people he feared the most had both appeared. Tiger knew better than anyone why Gaia had appeared in Dolores's bar. "Tiger, do you know something?" Bach asked. He could already tell that Tiger's expression wasn't right. "Bach, are there any competitions abroad? I want to fight there." "It's not the season. There aren't any competitions." "Then arrange a fight," Tiger said. "It doesn't matter if the price is low. I just want to stay abroad for a month or two." In the boxing world, it was very common to arrange a fight. As the only Grand Slam winner in the boxing world, Tiger was already the most famous in the boxing world. Tiger was already the most famous person in the boxing world. He was even close to catching up to the legends in history. So, there were naturally many people who challenged him. Hearing Tiger's words, Buck immediately understood. "Tiger, you have to trust my boss. He definitely has a way to solve your problem. But it's already been a week and there's still no news from your boss. If he could solve it, he would have done it already. Why hasn't he solved it yet?" Tiger suddenly roared and raged. Bach was also confused. In the past, his boss had always solved problems quickly. At most, it would take a week and everything would be fine. But this time, it had already been more than a week and there was still no reply. Even he himself, suspected that there might have been an accident this time. "Tiger, even if it's a challenge, it can't be decided in a short time." Bach felt that it was necessary to wait. After all, an internationally renowned athlete like Tiger had to decide on a match. First of all, the venue, ticket sales, sponsors, live broadcast authorization, and competition prize money would all require a long period of negotiation. Wasn't it the same as saying that if someone challenged him to a duel, he would accept the challenge and make his decision? "Then train abroad," Tiger said. "Syndicate, you can go into the sea now," Chen Zhao said. "Swimming? Boxing training has never been like swimming," Chen Zhao said. Swimming did have many benefits for the body, such as relieving physical fatigue and relaxing muscle stiffness. But this was precisely not good for boxers. This was because boxers needed to tighten their muscles at all times so that their muscles could explode with power at any time. No boxing coach would allow their trainees to swim. Chen Zhao had taught Tiger before, so he knew this. However, Chen Zhao had already given Syndicate a lot of perfect crystal potions. However, Xianjia's physique was unable to completely absorb the medicinal power of the mixture. Therefore, Chen Zhao needed to let the medicinal power completely release in Xianjia's body. Exercising a lot and relaxing the blood flow in his veins was the best way to release the medicinal power. This was why Chen Zhao chose to let Xianjia train in swimming. Compared to the side effects of swimming, the benefits of releasing the medicinal power were far inferior. If the side effect of swimming was 1, then the benefits of absorbing the medicinal power would be 100. "I have my own training methods. You just need to listen to me." Chen Zhao did not explain too much, but Xianjia felt that Chen Zhao should let Gaia train him as soon as possible, instead of letting him train himself randomly. No buts. Go into the water. Xianjia could only go into the water helplessly. "Mr. Chen, how far do I need to swim?" "Until I'm satisfied," Chen Zhao said. "Okay." Xianjia jogged toward a wave. As the wave receded, he followed it. On the other hand, Chen Zhao stood on a small wooden boat, drifting with the waves. Jia adjusted his strength. He was not in a hurry to sprint. However, as he swam, he realized that Chen Zhao's small wooden boat a few meters away had no paddles or motors, but it could still follow him. "Swim as fast as you can," Chen Zhao said. Jia was a bit unhappy. "Mr. Qin, it's very dangerous to swim at full speed." "No, it'll be even more dangerous if you don't swim fast." "What?" Chen Zhao pointed behind Jia. "A shark is swimming toward you." "Huh? What?" Jia looked back and indeed saw shark fins poking out of the water. Shocked, Jia hurriedly swam toward Chen Zhao's small wooden boat. "Pull me up." Jia did not think that he could swim faster than a shark. Even if he was a professional swimmer, he would still die horribly if he encountered a shark, not to mention that he wasn't a swimmer. Jia swam toward Chen Zhao's small wooden boat with all his might. However, before he could reach the small wooden boat, 2 more shark fins appeared around the small wooden boat and circled around it. Jia almost peed his pants. He turned around and ran. Jia swam as hard as he could until he was exhausted. He did not dare to look back, afraid that the shark would catch up to him. But after 7 or 8 minutes, he was out of energy. Just then, a bottle of water fell before Jia. "Replenish some energy." Jia looked at the small wooden boat that was now almost 50 meters away. Chen Zhao was sitting on it, holding a bottle of beer. But there were still 2 sharks swimming around the boat. But where did the shark that had chased him go? Jia hesitated. Should he turn around and swim toward the shore? Just as he was thinking about it, the shark's fin suddenly appeared more than 30 meters behind him. Jia peed his pants again and swam with all his might. But the bottle of water did help him recover quite a bit. That asterisk shoal really hoped that the shark would knock his small wooden boat over. As Jia ran, he cursed Chen Zhao in his heart. After a few more minutes, Jia was exhausted. Just then, Chen Zhao tossed him another bottle of water. Jia suddenly felt that something was wrong. Chapter 2470. Jia felt that every time he ran out of energy, the shark would disappear. After Chen Zhao gave him water to replenish his energy and a short rest, the shark would appear again. This was too abnormal. Jia suspected that he'd only seen the fin of the shark that had been chasing him earlier. Could it be that it wasn't a shark at all, but a person wearing a shark's fin to scare him? Or maybe it was a small submarine. Anyway, Chen Zhao was rich, so it wasn't strange that he had these things. "Fuck you, asterisk shoal, I know. It's all fake. There's no shark at all." Jia decided to stop being enslaved and tortured. He felt that his guess was correct. Chen Zhao was using the shark's fin to scare him. Also, his boat didn't have any power, but it could keep following him. This meant that there was something in the water that was holding the boat. "Oh, I remember. You just called your boss asshole." Chen Zhao looked at Jia. "You'll regret it." Jia gave Chen Zhao a middle finger from afar. Just then, Jia saw a shark's fin pop out of the water again. "Are you going to play the same trick again? Since I've seen through it, it won't work on me anymore." Although Jia firmly believed that his guess was correct, he still shivered when he saw the shark's fin approach. Gradually, he saw the water in front of the shark's fin being pushed away. Then a smooth, gray-white skin popped out of the water. Although he couldn't see the whole face, he could tell from the back that it was a submarine. It's done perfectly. They even gave the submarine the skin of a shark. Jia's smile was a bit forced, but the next moment, a huge creature jumped out of the water and streaked past Jia's head. Jia saw it. It was a great white shark that was 10 meters long. Yes, the ultimate nightmare of the ocean for humans. In the 1970s, the movie Jaws appeared out of nowhere and brought fear of the ocean to people all over the world. As for the great white shark in front of him, It was as if it had come out of a movie. The great white shark landed in the water in front of Xanjia, creating huge waves at the same time. By then, the wooden boat was not far from Xanjia. Chun Zhao sat on the wooden boat and pointed his phone at Syndicate. I think you can swim back now. I hope you can survive. Let me on the boat, let me on the boat. Syndicate was so scared that he almost peed his pants. This small wooden boat can't bring you safety. Chun Zhao said indifferently. You should believe that you can swim to the shore alive. Let me go up. Look, that great white shark's mouth is really big. Syndicate turned around and saw a bloody mouth that was so big that he could see the throat. It was coming towards him. Start swimming. Xanjia had no choice but to swim. It was a real great white shark this time. No matter how tired he was, he had to continue swimming. If he wasn't careful this time, he might really lose his life. No, it should be said that no matter what, it was very likely that he would lose his life. That damned bastard. Why didn't the great white shark attack him? Syndicate really hoped that the great white shark would be smarter. With just a gentle push, that small wooden boat would be overturned. Then it would be able to eat its fill. Xanjia swam with all his might. This is a very painful thing. The energy in his body was almost used up, but for the sake of his life, he had to force out more energy from his body. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Syndicate suddenly felt that he had more strength. He swam faster too. Perhaps it was because he was going with the tide, so he didn't use as much energy as going against the tide. He could already see the coastline ahead. Soon, it was less than 2 kilometers. No, it wasn't even 2 kilometers. As long as the water was less than 10 meters deep, the sharks would leave. They didn't like to be stranded. I'm actually so smart, Syndicate thought to himself. Suddenly, while Syndicate was sprinting at full speed, something seemed to pass by him. His heart skipped a beat. He looked back. Isn't that Chun Zhao's daughter? Why is she in the sea? Fuck! Perhaps it was because Chun Zhao had saved his daughter. Therefore, he couldn't just watch her die when he saw her. Syndicate turned again and headed towards little Jerlin's direction. But at this moment, he saw that the bloody mouth was already coming towards little Jerlin. It's over. Seeing this, Syndicate was in complete despair. He would die in the shark's mouth, let alone save the little girl. Little Guan Guan. Seeing old Guan, one of the 5 tiger generals, Jerlin immediately called out happily. Zinga was stunned for a moment. He saw that the terrifying great white shark did not swallow Jerlin in one gulp. Instead, it slowed down and circled around Jerlin. Just then, the small wooden boat came to Jerlin. Papa. Jerlin looked at Chun Zhao on the boat. Mama said, I can play in the water for 2 hours today. Really? Why don't I remember? Chun Zhao reached out and lifted Jerlin out of the water. Jerlin stuck out her little tongue. Chun Zhao looked at old Guan in the water. Complete your mission. Old Guan, who'd been circling the small wooden boat, charged toward Syndicate again. Ah, you asterisk shoal, you're lying! Syndicate turned around and ran again. But even though he knew that this was a training program, not everyone had the courage to face the bloody mouth. 10 minutes later, Syndicate lay in the shallow water and kept coughing up water. The small wooden boat was slowly washed to Syndicate's side by the waves. Looks like your training is good. You asterisk shoal, you ordered that great white shark. Syndicate didn't understand why a shark would listen to Chun Zhao's orders. But it was obvious that the great white shark did listen to him. Even his daughter wasn't afraid of the great white shark. Carrying Jerlin, Chun Zhao waded to the shore. Syndicate followed. To his surprise, he seemed to have recovered a lot of energy, even though he'd been so tired earlier. Just then, Hellies drove the car through the coastal road and returned with the kids who'd just finished school. The car stopped by the road and the kids dashed down the beach. Kilo, how come you're back so early today? Uncle, there's a fire at school, so the principal told us not to go to school for the next 2 days. Fire? Chun Zhao raised an eyebrow. Are there any casualties? No. Kilo looked at Syndicate. Uncle, what are you doing? Training him. No, I should say investing in him. He looks so weak. Divine King of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2471. A boy who wasn't even 10 years old called him weak? Syndicate felt like his dignity was seriously challenged. How do you think I'm weak? Every aspect, Kilo said. Too weak. I'm a professional boxer. Haven't you seen my fights? Oh, I remember. I saw your video a few days ago. You were killed by that traitor tiger in one punch. After saying that, Kilo looked at Syndicate in disdain. If Syndicate wasn't black, Qin Zhao would have seen his face blush. Mr. Qin, I think I need to teach your kid a lesson. Of course, no problem. Kilo, since Syndicate wants to spar with you, you can spar with him. I'll go prepare lunch. Oh, Uncle, do I have to go easy? Go easy? Syndicate looked at Kilo's small arms and legs. With this kind of body, he probably wouldn't feel anything even if Kilo punched him with full force. Just give me a punch. If you can make me feel pain, consider it my loss, Syndicate said. I don't need you to go easy on me. We'll fight fair and square. Sure, but put on your training gear first. Syndicate thought that Qin Zhao was worried that he would hurt his kid accidentally. However, Qin Zhao didn't stop him. This meant that he agreed to teach his kid a lesson. Kilo also put on his training gear. He knew what Qin Zhao meant. Syndicate patted his gloves. Come, let me feel your powerful fist. Bang! The next moment, Syndicate felt an intense pain in his abdomen. His body became weightless. He felt like he was flying. This feeling was very similar to when he'd faced Tiger and been sent flying with one punch. Everything seemed to slow down. Thud! Then Syndicate lost consciousness. Whoosh! Syndicate suddenly bounced up from the bed. Where am I? What's wrong? Syndicate looked around and realized that he was in a ward, the one he'd stayed in before. Strange, how did he get here? Syndicate knocked his head hard, but he couldn't remember how he'd gotten here. Just then Gaia walked in. Ms. Gaia, why are you here? Let's see how you've recovered. By the way, why am I here? Syndicate felt a slight headache, but other than that, he did not feel any other discomfort. You were overtired today, and then you were exposed to the sun, so you got a heat stroke, Gaia said casually. She didn't expect Syndicate to forget what had happened in front of Qin Zhao's house in the afternoon. But Gaia didn't tell Syndicate the truth. After all, he was KO'd by a 9-year-old boy with one punch, and he was still unconscious. If the Syndicate found out about this, it would definitely be a huge blow. Since he didn't remember, it was better not to let him know. Also, your training with Qin ends here. I'll be responsible for training you from now on. Has Mr. Chen's training ended? Did I train with Mr. Qin today? Singa was trying very hard to remember what had happened today. However, it might really be due to the heat stroke. His brain was dehydrated. Hinga couldn't remember what had happened. It's over. The effect was pretty good, except for the heat stroke. All right, will heat stroke affect the training plan later? No, after heat stroke, you just need to cool down and rehydrate. It's not a serious illness. After staying at Mingyue Villa for a short week, Chen Zhao's family moved back to Mirror Lake Manor. After Syndicate's treatment and training ended, he didn't have anything else to do for now. However, he heard from Kilo and the other kids that the school was on fire. He planned to visit Dashin Elementary School during his free time. The kids were all at home today. Portia was also taking care of the kids. While he was shopping at the supermarket, he took a detour to the school. When he reached the school gate, he realized that a corner of the building had already turned black. The fire had started at noon yesterday. Judging from the charred wall, the fire should have spread from the first floor to the third or fourth floor. It seemed like the fire had been quite big. As soon as he entered the school, he saw Mackenzie walking over with a gloomy expression. Mr. Qin, why are you here? I heard from the kids that the school was on fire, so I came to take a look. Thank you for your concern. Mackenzie wasn't in a good mood, but she still tried to communicate politely. "Can I ask the cause of the fire?" According to the investigation report given by the fire department, someone deliberately set the fire. The first thing that caught fire was the storage room on the first floor. There were some flammable items stored in the storage room. So the fire spread very quickly and even caused an explosion. Fortunately, the explosion also alerted the classes in the teaching building, so there were no more casualties. The school doesn't have a fire system. The American government had a clear rule that any school used for education had to have a qualified fire system. The United States had always been known for its strict protection of minors. Yes, but the fire station found that the water source for the fire system was purposely turned off. Chen Zhao's expression darkened. This was purposely burning people to death. Also, what kind of people were in the school? Of course, they were all minors. Did someone purposely want to burn a few kids to death? Or was it purposely targeting someone? Chen Zhao had actually come to investigate and see if it had anything to do with him. After all, due to certain reasons, Chen Zhao's family had been attracting trouble recently. Therefore, Chen Zhao suspected that the other party had thought of this method because they didn't have a chance to do anything. If they really did it, there was no need for them to stay at all. After all, this method of burning children to death to achieve one's own goals was not allowed in any industry or group. If the other party did it, they might do it again. Therefore, Chen Zhao decided to act directly. However, Chen Zhao remembered that he'd promised Helis to be the main force in this expedition. "Helis, come here. Let's go to the city together." Chen Zhao told Helis what he wanted. In less than 30 minutes, Chen Zhao returned to Mirror Lake Manor from town. Helis arrived soon after. "President, when do we trigger it?" "At night." "At night? Why?" "We'll probably do it. It'll be too easy to be exposed during the day," Chen Zhao said. "It's better to do it at night." "Oh, were you inside or outside the school when the fire broke out yesterday?" "Outside. I was in my car the whole time. Did you find anyone suspicious?" Chapter 2472. "There are many people going in and out of the school," Helei said. "I don't know who the suspect is." Chen Zhao shrugged. It seemed that he couldn't get more information from Helei. "Do you think a normal person or a spiritualist did this fire?" "Spiritualist," Helei answered with certainty. "Why? You don't know who the arsonist is, right? The report from the fire station has come out. It was a fire in the storage room. When the firefighters were putting out the fire, the door of the storage room was still locked. There was no other way to enter. After the fire was extinguished, the investigation at the scene found that there were no flammable items in the storage room, and there were traces of deliberately igniting things in the storage room. If it was an ordinary person, it would be impossible to enter the storage room without opening the door. Is your surname Holmes?" Chen Zhao was surprised to find that Helei's mind was abnormally clear. He didn't think that Helis could actually think so much about this. "But I didn't see any other spiritualists in the school apart from Didi and the others. My kids wouldn't be the arsonist, right?" "I checked the attendance of each class at that time. Didi and the others were in their respective classes at that time." "Ah, you suspected them too?" "Maybe they didn't want to go to school, so they purposely set the fire. They're still kids. Kids are the scariest because they think that adults will forgive them for everything they do." Okay, but they didn't do it." Chen Zhao broke out in a cold sweat. He was really afraid that Helei would say something he couldn't accept. "It must be the English," Chen Zhao said with certainty. "I don't know how they snuck into the school, but they definitely did it." Helei didn't care who did it. She also didn't mind using it as a reason to punish the English. Besides, this piece of land belonged to their family. Basically, it was whoever they said. As for Hampson, he felt a sense of impending nervousness. Ever since they left their seclusion, some members of the Immortal Crown had died due to missions, but only once or twice. But this time, they stayed in Los Angeles for less than 10 days, for people had already gone missing, and 2 of them were third-generation cultivators with outstanding strength. Besides, Manel was his nephew. Was this really a desert of magic? Why did it feel like this was a graveyard for magic? It had only been a few days, and they had already lost 4 people. Suddenly, he wanted to leave this place. He was now disenchanted. That man from Huaxia, he was definitely not a newbie, like he had initially thought. Although he did not know why he left Huaxia, a land blessed by magic, he was definitely not weak. Moreover, that man might have some influence and had gathered a group of spiritualists. On the other hand, they were unfamiliar with this place, and their movements were restricted everywhere. It was still uncertain whether the missing men were still alive. However, if they were to retreat now, then those who might have already died would definitely die. Should they start an all-out war? Fight head-on? The other party had the advantage of time and place, but that did not mean that they had absolute strength. If he wanted to engage in a prolonged battle with his opponent, he would definitely lose. Just the daily activities and expenses alone could turn all of them into vagrants. However, if they directly cut the Gordian knot, if they could not make use of the advantage of time and place, then they would have a chance to win. This was using pure strength to determine who was stronger. There were no tricks to speak of. However, this idea was only worth thinking about for the time being. After all, they could not even collect all the information at the moment. At this moment, a woman rushed in. "Mr. Hampson, there are 2 people outside." "What do you mean by 2 people?" "Carpenter and I wanted to go out, but when we walked to the gate, we saw a strange car parked in front of the gate. 2 people got out of the car. Carpenter thought they were people who got lost in the dark, so he went up to ask them, but one of the women attacked him and killed him instantly." "What? Carpenter is dead? Who are those 2 people?" "I don't know. I have no impression of them at all." "President, these British guys are really poor. Renting a hotel floor would be better than staying in this broken place." Harry's looked at the desolation in front of her. This should be an abandoned pasture. Large patches of grassland that were about to be eroded by wind and sand were exposed to the air. It was like the top of a middle-aged man with severe hair loss. In the middle of the ranch, there was a 2-story wooden house and a few shabby wooden sheds. There was also a metal fence around it, but after the erosion of wind and rain, the fence was already crooked. This place was really too old. Only the wooden house was still intact in the entire pasture. Just then, a dozen people came out. Hampson came out with his men, but the moment he saw Chun Zhao, Hampson's eyes widened. He finally knew that his enemies had come knocking on his door. Hampson was not afraid at all. Instead, he was very happy. He had wanted to fight them head-on, but he did not know their background and power, so he did not do anything. He did not expect them to come to him. His wish really came true. It seemed that he was lucky. Even the heavens were looking after him. He did not need to say anything, nor did he need to use hypocrisy to hide his goal. Neither of them had considered forgiving each other with a smile. It was such a simple matter, he just had to do it. Actually, Chen Zhao wanted to say something harsh, but Harry's was too impatient. She was afraid that Chen Zhao would steal the kill. So, without thinking, she summoned the skeleton army. In an instant, a dense horde of skeletons appeared around the ranch. The empty eye sockets of all the skeletons flickered with a green light. There were probably more than 10,000 of them. The dozen people from the Immortal Crown were all dumbfounded. A necromancer? This was rare, but not completely extinct. They would occasionally see 1 or 2. However, a necromancer could summon an army of the dead at once. A real army of the dead. This was too rare. It could even be said to be one of a kind. Everyone's mind went blank. Oh my God, who was the one who had attacked them? Even Hampson's expression froze. He stood there dazed. He did not know what expression or attitude he should use to face the 2 people before him. Chapter 2473. Where did you get so many skeletons? Chen asked softly. I've been to Africa twice, Hila said. She didn't explain it clearly, but Chun Da-ji could tell what she meant. These skeletons weren't summoned out of thin air. They weren't originally from this land either. After all, no ranch would bury so many people's skeletons under their own land. But Helis' move was shocking enough. How much magic power would it take to summon an army of tens of thousands of skeletons? Hamson didn't know how much, but he knew that even if they combined their magic power, it wouldn't be enough to summon so many skeletons. This woman was terrifying, very terrifying, but Hamson immediately ordered, "Gang, activate the barrier!" One of the spiritualists called Gang immediately waved his magic staff. A circle of light rose around the iron fence, blocking the skeleton army. "Let's take advantage of this and kill them," Hamson shouted. If the countless skeletons swarmed over, they really wouldn't be able to resist. But now, the situation was completely reversed. Hamson felt that Helis had used all her magic power to summon the skeleton army. She definitely didn't have much magic power left. The woman was powerful, but she clearly didn't have much experience. Summoning such a large army of skeletons was indeed astonishing, but it just happened to be restrained by their arrangements here. "They seem to have misunderstood something," Chindaji said. A bone spear suddenly appeared in Helis' hand. She didn't need to use much strength. It was just like a normal throw. A spiritualist was skewered and died on the spot. Everyone couldn't help but shiver. So powerful. Even though she had used up most of her magic power, she still had such great power. He was still so powerful that he instantly killed one of them. But Hamson felt that Helis was at the end of her tether. Hamson yelled now. Once again, they thought that Helis couldn't use any more magic. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, the ground under the three spiritualists exploded. Then, 3 bone prisons that looked like white flowers rose from under their feet. They instantly caught the 3 spiritualists. As the bone prison tightened, the 3 spiritualists wailed in agony. But he did not receive any sympathy from Helith. Heres clenched her palm, and in an instant, the bone prison was like a tightly clenched palm. The flesh and blood of the 3 spiritualists seeped out of the bone prison. Hamson and the others all paled. Is this woman the Grim Reaper? There was no chance of victory against such a terrifying power. As for the skeleton army outside the barrier, they didn't just stand there obediently. A large number of skeleton soldiers climbed to the top of the barrier, almost covering the entire barrier. As for the skeleton soldiers that were covering the barrier, they were constantly attacking the barrier. Perhaps one skeleton soldier's attack power was very weak, or perhaps 10 skeleton soldiers wouldn't be that strong. However, if there were 100 or 1,000 of them, it would be a completely different concept. Moreover, this barrier was only set up temporarily by them. Even at the beginning of the arrangement, they did not consider that there would be any powerful enemies attacking. Therefore, he chose a very ordinary barrier that would not have a strong effect. Even the arrangement was sloppy. Soon, cracks began to appear on the protective barrier. "Surrender! We surrender!" Hamson shouted. Harris turned to look at Chen, but he did not say anything. From start to finish, he just crossed his arms and watched everything quietly. The barrier was completely shattered, and a large number of skeleton soldiers fell from the sky. "Everyone stand beside me. We'll cast Shelter Fortress together." Most of the defensive spells were cast individually. However, Hamson's group knew a very special defensive spell. That was, it could release the same defensive magic according to the number of people, thus increasing the defensive power of this magic to an astonishing level. A single spiritualist was like the bricks of a castle, so this magic was also known as Shelter Fortress. A shelter fortress supported by a dozen spiritualists indeed had an extremely powerful defensive power. At least their casualties did not increase. The skeleton soldiers could not break through the shelter fortress at all. Harris did not attack immediately. She was also curious about the spiritualist's defensive spell. What was the upper limit of the spell? It seemed that the skeleton soldiers could not break through the spell. Of course, Hamson's group could not maintain this spell forever in the shelter fortress. Clearly, they could not outlast Harris. In the supernatural organization, other than Chin, the one with the most mana was Helis. After all, she had the mana of her 12 siblings and their future. Her mana was several times higher than Jalanash, who was ranked second in the organization. Anyone who fought with her in terms of mana would basically die a horrible death. Guys, let's talk. Hamsin was already feeling strained. After all, the continuous output of mana was a very painful thing. If even he felt strained, the others would not be able to continue. Some of them even ran out of magic power. With each person lost, the shelter fortress's defensive power would decrease a bit. Not long after, Hamsin was the only one left in the shelter fortress. At this moment, Hamsin's magic power was almost depleted. Moreover, the shelter fortress's defensive power was even weaker than a normal defensive spell. Suddenly, there was a violent explosion outside. Dozens of skeleton soldiers were thrown over by the violent explosion. Both Jen and Helith were attracted by the sudden explosion. The people who were struggling in the shelter fortress were immediately energized. Jen saw a figure moving up and down among the skeleton soldiers. The violent explosion just now was clearly caused by him. Then the figure created 2 more explosions, each more powerful than the last. Not bad. Harris looked at the person. Yes, Chun agreed with the person's power. But just then the figure jumped into the air and was about to create the 3rd explosion. He suddenly vomited in midair and fell into the skeleton soldiers. Both Chun and Helith felt embarrassed. Damn, this was really embarrassing. They had just said that the guy was not bad and had even acknowledged him. But the next moment, he did something very difficult. What the hell was vomiting in the air? Just when Chen and Helis thought that the person had fallen into the midst of the skeleton soldiers and was hacked to death, the figure suddenly rushed out in flames and reunited with Hamsin and the others. Chapter 2474. Mr. Hamsin. Burp! It was Hamsin's student Truman. But as soon as he opened his mouth, he exhaled a breath that reeked of alcohol. Hazel stared at Truman in confusion. With a wave of her hand, all the skeleton soldiers fell apart. In the end, not even their bones were left. Hamsin glanced at Truman, somewhat dissatisfied. He lowered his voice and said, "You drunkard, why did you come here? You should just die drunk outside." Actually, he didn't want Truman to die. All of them could see how terrifying the woman opposite them was. After giving up on summoning the undead army, she didn't become weaker. Instead, she became even scarier. Truman was still drunk and couldn't sober up. He kept hiccuping. He held Hamsin with one hand and his body swayed. He looked like he would fall at any moment. "Mr. Hamsin." Burp. "Just now Stanley called me." Burp. "That woman is terrifying. All of us together probably won't be her match." Truman was drunk, but he'd followed Chen Zhao's kid for 2 days with Stanley. He could still recognize Hazel as the woman who drove Chen Zhao's kid to and from school every day. "How powerful is she?" "About your 2 minutes," Hamsin said in a low voice. Hamsin lowered his voice and said, "If you can deal with him in 2 minutes, then we'll win. If you can't, then we'll all die here." Truman looked drunk, but his brain was very clear. Truman staggered forward a few steps. Chen Zhao was confused. Truman's magic power wasn't high or low, but it was worlds apart from Hazel's. However, Truman's eyes seemed to be filled with confidence. "Be careful. That person probably has a trump card," Chen Zhao said. "Okay." Hazel nodded. Suddenly, Truman attacked. He charged at Hazel. Hazel's eyes flashed, and she instantly shot out a vengeful spirit. A ferocious, evil spirit pounced at Truman. But just as it was about to hit Truman, he suddenly fell to the side in a strange manner, dodging Hazel's attack. However, even though he had fallen to the ground, he did not stop moving forward. Harris extended her palm forward, and a dozen evil spirits appeared in her hand. However, Truman's movements were very similar to those in the movie Drunken Punch. Swaying left and right, he seemed to be in a dangerous situation, but in reality, he was able to easily avoid Harris's attack. Blackies raised her eyebrows. This guy was really like a monkey. However, Harold was not particularly concerned. Since she could not hit the target with directional spells, she would use lock-on spells. Suddenly, a misty black hand reached out from the darkness and grabbed Truman. Then it squeezed. Helly's thought that this attack was enough to kill Truman. But in the next moment, Truman's body exploded into a puddle of water the moment the black hand grabbed him. The moment the water splashed, there was a strong smell of alcohol. At this moment, Truman's appeared from the scattered alcohol on the ground. Doppelganger? Truman's doppelgangers did the same thing and swayed towards Helios. However, Helith wasn't afraid at all. She instantly unleashed a few hands of death. Pa, pa, pa! In an instant, all of Truman's doppelgangers were crushed by Helios. However, after crushing those doppelgangers, Truman's doppelgangers appeared again, and their numbers were several times more than before. More than 20 doppelgangers all rushed towards Helios. At this moment, even Helios was unable to release so many hands of death in an instant. However, being unable to release more than 20 hands of death at the same time didn't mean that Helios couldn't do anything. Since lock-on spells were not effective, she would use group spells. Death shock! A black ripple suddenly erupted from Helios's body. The black ripple swept past Truman's doppelgangers, and they immediately exploded into puddles. However, Helios didn't expect that Truman could actually increase the number of doppelgangers by several times. This time, Truman's doppelgangers were very close to Helios. After all, every time Truman's doppelgangers would rely on sprinting to get close. After a few times, Truman was less than 10 meters away from Helios. Helios's expression changed slightly, and she shouted, "Death scatter!" Countless rays of death aura suddenly shot out from Helitha's body. All of Truman's doppelgangers exploded once again. However, the puddles of alcohol released by those doppelgangers had already splashed onto Helios's body. Helios shook off the smell of alcohol on her body. At this moment, Truman's doppelgangers appeared several times more than before. Hundreds of Truman's doppelgangers appeared again. Helios's expression changed drastically because Truman's doppelgangers were already less than 2 meters away from her. Then, a spark appeared on the battlefield. Boom! In an instant, a huge flame soared into the sky. The explosion instantly engulfed Helios, as well as all of Truman's doppelgangers. That terrifying sound and fiery light, along with the destructive heatwave shockwave, seemed to be able to destroy everything. Hampson and the others couldn't help but be happy. At this moment, Truman returned to Hampson's side. "Truman, good job." However, Truman had already sobered up a lot. At the same time, he also looked very weak. After all, the spell just now had almost emptied his mana. The result was, of course, gratifying. At least he got rid of the enemy that his teacher and the others couldn't. This spell was created by him alone and combined with his own bloodline. He also gave this spell a very sci-fi name, ethanol equation. He could continuously create doppelgangers containing a large amount of ethanol within 3 minutes, and every time he cast it, the number of ethanol doppelgangers destroyed on the battlefield would increase by 5 times. For example, if 1 ethanol doppelganger was destroyed in one wave, then 5 ethanol doppelgangers would be created the second time. If Helios destroyed all of Truman's ethanol doppelgangers in one move every time, then the next time, the total would increase by 5 times. Of course, even if he couldn't destroy a single ethanol doppelganger, Truman could create 5 times more ethanol doppelgangers every 30 seconds. Therefore, to a certain extent, this spell was unsolvable. Whether the doppelgangers were destroyed or not, the number of ethanol doppelgangers would continue to increase exponentially. Truman's current mana was only enough for him to maintain his regular consumption for 2 minutes, which meant that he could create more than 600 ethanol doppelgangers every 30 seconds. Then he could detonate all the ethanol doppelgangers at the same time, and the resulting power would be very terrifying. Chapter 2475. After the huge explosion, the flames didn't go out even after a long time. The remaining ethanol was still burning crazily. There was a huge pit, several meters wide, at the center of the explosion. Hamson and everyone else from the Immortal Crown heaved a long sigh of relief. After all, Harold was too terrifying. Even if they all worked together, they probably wouldn't be able to beat Harold. Only then did Hamson smile. He looked at Qin Zhao. "Sir, it seems like your fighter is dead. Do you have anything to say now?" Hamson felt that Qin Zhao only dared to come here because Harold was his subordinate. Now that Helith was dead, he had nothing to rely on. "Don't jump to conclusions so quickly," Qin Zhao said with a smile. The flames in the pit at the center of the explosion gradually extinguished. A black ball was revealed in the pit. The black sphere slowly blossomed like a blooming black lotus. Harold stood in the center of the black lotus, completely unharmed. Everyone's expression froze. Not dead? She didn't die? No, she wasn't even injured. How was it possible that she wasn't even slightly injured by such a terrifying explosion? Harold's expression was extremely gloomy as she walked out of the pit step by step. Everyone's heart sank to the bottom. Truman's moment had indeed given them hope. But at this moment, what they felt was unprecedented despair. Even Truman's trump card wasn't able to counterattack her. Could this woman really be defeated? Harold stood where she was, her expression uncertain. However, her gaze never left Truman. Truman smiled bitterly. He had no chance to turn the tables. In the short 2 minutes, he'd used up all his magic. Plus, so what if he was at his peak? He still couldn't harm that woman at all. Finally, Harold said, "You won this round." "I lost." With that, Harold turned and left. Hamson and the others were all dumbfounded. "What? Lost?" "No. Weren't you unharmed?" "Are you insulting our intelligence? You clearly had a complete victory, okay?" But Harold didn't plan to explain more. She was just that cold. Hamson and the others, on the other hand, had very complicated feelings. "Harold, what are you doing? Are you going to quit?" Qin Zhao grabbed Heleai's. "I've lost. You handle it yourself. I don't care." Harold couldn't help but look at Truman again. For some reason, Qin Zhao felt like he saw an unusual gaze. Could it be that Harris had promised to marry whoever defeated her? Deal with it himself? Of course, his original plan was to kill them all and end it once and for all. But if he really killed that Truman guy, would Hyles be happy? Hamson and the others watched as Helith left. In the end, she disappeared from everyone's sight. Then they left Qin Zhao where he was. They all came up with such a scenario. Could it be that the woman had long disliked her boss and even hated Qin Zhao? However, due to some oath, she couldn't directly attack Qin Zhao. So she purposely used this opportunity to get rid of her boss through the hands of the others? The more Hamson and the others thought about it, the more likely it was. Qin Zhao put away his awkward and troubled expression. "All right, since my subordinates don't intend to kill all of you, I'll give you a chance." "Sir, you seem to be mistaken." "Chance? We've never asked for any chance," Hamson said confidently. He wasn't afraid anymore. They didn't even have anything to rely on. What was there to be proud of? You don't want my chance?" Qin Zhao really didn't know about their colorful inner thoughts. He was Heleai's boss. Since Heleai's was already so powerful, he was definitely more powerful than her. Wasn't this just common sense? "You fight for opportunities," Hamson said matter-of-factly, "not charity." "Fine. I'd like to see how you fight for it." To put it bluntly, these people were shameless. Qin Zhao would never give in to people like this. "Kill him," Hamson ordered. Instantly, colorful spells shot toward Qin Zhao. But all the spells disintegrated before they could even get close to him. What's wrong with this guy? Why can't spells hit him? All the spells poured onto Qin Zhao, but they couldn't even get close, let alone hurt him. You better work harder. I'll give you 30 more seconds. Qin Zhao glanced at the time. Countdown starts now. Everyone's hearts were shrouded in a layer of shadow, and they tried their best to release magic. But they couldn't even touch a corner of Qin Zhao. 30 seconds are up. Now it's my turn to attack. Everyone, protect the fortress! Hamsun exclaimed. In desperation, everyone forced out a lot of magic power to maintain the fortress of protection. Qin Zhao raised his right arm. Without storing any power, he punched from more than 30 meters away. Boom! The fortress shattered. Along with the shelter fortress, 5 other people were destroyed. Their bodies exploded like flowers. The remaining 12 people were all thrown to the ground by the terrifying shockwave. They spat out blood at the same time. Only then did Hamsun realize that Heliais was just throwing a tantrum. He didn't want to kill them with a borrowed knife. Even if Heliais wanted to kill them with a borrowed knife, he had to be qualified. Qin Zhao had destroyed the fortress they'd built together with one strike. He didn't need any more proof. Qin Zhao secretly thought that was close. He seemed to have attacked too harshly and killed 5 people instantly. Luckily, Truman wasn't dead. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how to explain to Heliais. Qin Zhao strolled over and stood before Hamsun. How was it? Did you get your chance? Hamsun's face darkened. He felt very stupid. Qin Zhao had said that he would give them a chance. He just had to jump out and ask for it. Do you still want a chance now? These words were a form of humiliation to Hamsun. But at this time, if he said no, none of his juniors would be able to live. Even if he lost all face, he couldn't say no. Yes. Okay, I'll give you if you want. Look, I'm actually very easy to talk to. Qin Zhao smiled. My motto is love and peace. Hamsun and the others felt their stomachs cramp at Qin Zhao's words. He'd only attacked once and killed 5 of them, cleanly. This was love and peace? This wasn't love and peace. This was love and peace, right? Chapter 2476. Qin Zhao glanced at the remaining people. I can generously forgive you for your schemes and harms to me and my family, Qin Zhao said in a gentle tone. But you set fire to an elementary school. This can't be forgiven, Qin Zhao said in a gentle tone. Hamsun's expression also changed slightly. He couldn't help but look at Stanley and Truman. Even though they'd just been born, they knew some rules in the spiritual world that touched the bottom line. Setting a fire in a school, especially an elementary school. This wasn't allowed in any industry. If caught, they'd be beaten to death. Thus, when Hamsun heard Qin Zhao's words, he couldn't help but be shocked by Stanley and Truman's guts. At this moment, even Stanley and Truman were shocked. They both waved their hands in denial. No, I didn't do it, Truman said hurriedly. We didn't do it. They'd both heard about the fire in the elementary school. However, they hadn't taken it to heart. They'd just treated it as an accident. It had nothing to do with them. But after hearing Qin Zhao's words, they suddenly realized that they were the biggest suspects. This wasn't a joke. After all, they had the motive. You said you didn't do it? Why should I believe you? When the fire happened, Mr. Truman was drinking at a bar in town, Stanley said. I was there. The bar owner can testify for us. This evidence is meaningless, Qin Zhao sneered. We're all spiritualists. I have 100 ways to create an alibi. Just as Qin Zhao had said, a spiritualist could totally fool normal people. The two were troubled. After all, they couldn't take out direct evidence. After all, they hadn't expected the school to catch fire. Thus, it was even more impossible for them to gather an alibi. I have an idea, Hamsun said hurriedly. I can use Suatan's trial. If Suatan's trial proves that they're guilty, we're all willing to accept the same punishment. Hamsun didn't have the right to negotiate. None of them could. If Stanley and Truman were the culprits behind the arson incident, none of them would survive. The only thing they could do now was to prove whether they were guilty or not. Sotin's trial was also known as the Trial of the Grim Reaper. This spell would summon the Grim Reaper. It was up to Death to determine if they were lying or not. People could lie to their own kind, but they could not lie to the Grim Reaper's promise. Once they broke their promise to the Grim Reaper and lied, then their souls would be directly harvested by the Grim Reaper. Sure. Qin Zhao accepted the request. Of course, this spell was very difficult, and the success rate was very low. Hamson looked at Stanley and Truman and said, "This is your last chance. Before I use Suatan's trial, I'll ask you one last time. Did you guys start the fire?" "We didn't do it," Truman replied firmly. "We didn't do it," Stanley also replied. "All right then, let's begin Sotin's trial." Hamson shouted softly and made a strange gesture with his hands. "Messenger of justice, receiver of death, please listen to my call. I welcome your judgment with my oath." Suddenly, Hamson's surroundings began to be shrouded by a black aura of death. Hamson's face revealed a pained expression. However, Hamson persisted. The aura of death gradually formed. A figure with the aura of death appeared before everyone. Qin Zhao was stunned. He looked at the black figure before him. "Blackie? Why did he summon Blackie here? Who wants to start the trial?" Blackie glanced at everyone. In the end, he said to Hamson, "You can ask 3 questions. You can ask 3 different people at most. The person being asked can remain silent but not lie. Otherwise, their souls will belong to me." Hamson nodded. "Who's first?" "I'll go first," Truman said. "No lies." Blackie made the first trial. Hamson did not think that he would waste the first question like this. "Did you and Stanley start the fire?" Hamson did not dare to be long-winded anymore. If someone else were to continue the conversation, it was very likely that he would accidentally lose another opportunity. "No," Truman answered. "No lies." Blackie's answer made everyone feel lucky. Thankfully, it really had nothing to do with the fire. Otherwise, they would have died from Chen Zhao's rage. Hamson's third question was for Stanley. "Last question. Do they have anything to do with the fire?" "No." Hamson heaved a long sigh. Thankfully, it really had nothing to do with them. Qin Zhao glanced at Hamson and the others. "Although you didn't do it, it doesn't mean that you're completely innocent," Qin Zhao said righteously. "I'll give you 1 week to find out who started the fire," Qin Zhao said in a righteous tone. Even though some people were unhappy with Qin Zhao's request, they did not dare to say anything. Qin Zhao wasn't begging them or trying to reason with them. "Yes," Hamson answered respectfully. "We're willing to accept this request." After asking the 3 questions, Blackie's body dissipated. "Don't think about escaping. You can't. We never thought about escaping. We also know that we can't. That's good. In 1 week, if you still can't find evidence or the arsonist, I'll put you on trial for arson." Hamson nodded. Qin Zhao had achieved his goal, so he turned and left. But no one realized that Qin Zhao had left just like that. In just an instant, Qin Zhao disappeared into the night. Everyone heaved a long sigh of relief. The pressure that Qin Zhao gave them was too great. It was different from Blackie. Blackie indeed looked very powerful. They could at least fight back a little. But when they faced Qin Zhao, they could not fight back at all. The power that Qin Zhao had displayed was completely dominating. You've seen the situation we're facing right now. Don't try to escape or resist. We can't do anything here. Contact 10 smart companions from the headquarters. Also, do your best to investigate the arson in Los Angeles. Our lives are in the hands of that man. Chapter 2477. Mr. Hamson, how are we going to explain to Madeko Pavich? Explain? What? He made us provoke such an enemy. What else do we have to explain? Hamson's face darkened. He was furious that Madeko Pavich had brought them here without gathering any intelligence and had even provoked such a monstrous enemy. Actually, Hampson knew that they were responsible for this too. When he'd accepted Madeko Pavich's invitation, he'd thought that there were no good ideas in North America. Of course, Hampson wouldn't admit his responsibility. He would only think that their current situation was Madeko Pavich's fault. Thus, he didn't plan to remind Madeko Pavich of anything now. It would be best if Madeko was kept in the dark. The worse, the better. Truman, Stanley, do the two of you have any clues regarding the arson case? There are no gangs in Mountain Town, Stanley said. I heard that there used to be, but every time a gang tries to develop there, they always disappear mysteriously. He didn't know why at first, but now he knew. The gangs were probably all drowned in the lake. So we can basically rule out that it's a local gang in Mountain Town. Stanley paused for a moment before saying, there are a few spiritualists in the area, but from the limited information we have so far, they seem to know that Chinese man. I reckon that they more or less know how terrifying that Chinese man is, so they probably won't take the initiative to get themselves into trouble. This was one of the few pieces of information that Stanley could gather. After all, they'd just arrived and didn't have any information system. Hampson's heart sank when he heard Stanley's reply. They weren't familiar with the place and had promised to catch the arsonist in a week. It seemed like he'd agreed very quickly, but everyone knew that it was just an expedient measure. If he hadn't agreed, then what awaited them would have been total annihilation. That guy who loved peace could really do something ruthless to them at any time. Yang stood at the airport and watched Dao Air and Dao Sen enter the departure hall. They were finally going back to China. Yang was a bit reluctant and a bit disappointed. He was brought up by Dao Air and Dao San, and more than half of his spells were taught to him by them. They didn't know that he was Yang's apprentice brother, but also his elder. Their purpose for coming here was to bring Yang back. But Yang didn't care whether it was soft or hard, he just wouldn't agree. Even though Dao Air and Dao San had severely injured Yang still stood by his decision. In the end, it was Dao Air and Dao San who wanted to stay and protect Yang. But Yang knew that the expedition to Bermuda this time did not bode well. He was stubborn, but he couldn't drag his senior brother to die with him. In the end, he had no choice but to call Zhang Tianyi and ask him to recall Dao Air and Dao San. Zhang Tianyi was also decisive. A grand disciple had already fallen into the pit. He did not want to lose two more grand disciples, so he forcefully recalled Dao Air and Dao San. Yang didn't return to the headquarters until Dao 2 and Dao 3's flights took off. On the way back to the headquarters, Yang thought about many things. Chen Zhao had reminded him more than once about the dangers of Bermuda. Yang had already come to a conclusion, but it would be extremely difficult for him to leave now. He had always felt guilty towards Vestana and Brits. He felt that he owed them. So now he couldn't abandon them. The headquarters of the psionic team had been destroyed because of Toddy Belster's conflict. But then they found a temporary headquarters. This used to be the training ground of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department, but now it was given to the psionic team. Hi, Mr. Toddy. Yang took the initiative to greet him when he saw Toddy Belster. It was as if he had forgotten about the conflict that day. He was as friendly as an old friend who hadn't seen each other for many years. Apart from showing off his power during the conflict that day, Toddy Belster hadn't done anything else. He had returned to his former low-profile and reserved self. Yang felt that this was only natural. If they hadn't tried to test him that day, Toddy Belster wouldn't have flown into a rage. Yang, Vestana, and Brits actually regretted the conflict that day. Yang felt that their relationship with Toddy Belster had been better in the past. Although Toddy Belster never showed his strength, the two of them were more like friends. But after that test, they knew Toddy Belster's power. At the same time, their relationship had changed from friends to partners. The wall in their hearts couldn't be broken anymore. If they were friends, they could do anything in the most dangerous time. But for partners, when one party lost his value, it would be time for the other to leave. Even when the situation was dangerous, one party wouldn't go all out to help. Instead, they would choose to protect themselves. As a liar, even now, Toddy Belster couldn't change some of his habits. Even though Chun Zhao had given him special abilities, he still thought of himself as a liar. It seemed that Toddy Belster had a psychological advantage with the psionic team. But when facing Chun Zhao, Toddy was in a weak position. So, it would be hard for him to change his identity in a short time. Moreover, Toddy Belster was a very clear-headed person. He wasn't as emotional as Yanghua, and he wouldn't feel guilty for his own mistakes. All of his efforts were for the sake of self-preservation and to obtain more benefits. He clearly understood that everything he had now was given to him by Chun Zhao. More accurately, it was borrowed. He didn't really have it. So, Chun Zhao still controlled his life and death. So, Toddy didn't dare to have any rebellious thoughts toward Chun Zhao. Mr. Toddy, the expedition to Bermuda is set off this weekend. Do you have any thoughts? No, Toddy said calmly. I'll do my part. Mr. Toddy, we might not need to do our part this time. Yang's words had a hidden meaning. There are some things that even I can't change. Mr. Toddy, you're not confident either. Yang, you've asked me countless times. Chapter 2478. What are our chances of winning in Bermuda? Not just Yanghua, but West Anna and Blitz also asked Toddy this question every time they saw him. No matter how he answered, they still enjoyed it. Toddy Belster had long been annoyed by them. Fuck, I've never been to Bermuda. How would I know? Toddy knew that they were all confused and scared. He was scared too, but he couldn't tell anyone. Who could he talk to? Chun Zhao? See if Chun Zhao would talk to him. But Yanghua, Blitz, and West Anna kept asking him like this. That made Toddy Belster nervous. Now, Toddy Belster wanted to ask Chun Zhao what exactly was in Bermuda. Toddy Belster had a vague understanding of her own strength, but he still couldn't forget what Chun Zhao had told him. Chun Zhao had given him the ability to summon demons so that he could protect himself when fighting in Bermuda. Toddy Belster called Chun Zhao. The reply he got was that he was busy and would talk to him in a few days. Actually, Chun Zhao didn't have much to do these 2 days. He was just used to being lazy. After a while, he would stop and rest. Every day, he would take the kids to and from school. Also, he wanted to find a suitable preschool for Sindora and Mara. But the preschool in Mountain Town wasn't that good. There were also 1 or 2 private tutors who took in 4 or 5 kids for preschool. The place was also their own home. None of these satisfied Chun Zhao. Of course, there were many high-end preschool classes in Los Angeles, but they weren't close. After thinking for a few days, Chun Zhao suddenly thought of Amber and Clive. Clive was also a teacher at Mount Elementary, but Didira had said that he'd been a private tutor before. After lunch, Portia stayed at home to take care of the kids. Chun Zhao planned to talk to Clive and Amber. Their houses weren't far. Clive's family lived in Mountain Town. It only took 10 minutes to walk there. When he reached Clive's house, Chun Zhao saw a big boy weeding in the front yard. Another girl was playing with a golden retriever on the lawn. A faint smell wafted from Clive's house. It seemed to be mixed with the aura of magic. Papa! Chun Zhao pressed the horn. Hey, kid! Chun Zhao greeted. The weeding youth looked up and saw Chun Zhao. He immediately went to Chun Zhao's car. You must be Mr. Chen. How can I help you? Are Amber and Clive home? Uncle Clive went to school. Auntie Pa went shopping at the supermarket. She should be back soon, the teenager said. Mr. Chen, if you're looking for Auntie Pa, you can wait inside. Okay. Chun Zhao got out of the car. What's your major? Chun Zhao asked. Air. The young man hesitated. Mr. Chen, what are you talking about? What magic attribute do you have? I can feel the magic in you, and so can that girl. Mr. Chen, you too? Yes, I'm an elemental wind elemental. I cultivate both storm and warm current. What are storm and warm currents? Chun Zhao asked, confused. The youth was confused. He thought that Qin Zhao was a skilled spiritualist, but he didn't even know such basic terms. Storm current is all kinds of powerful attacks, while warm current is more of a support type. The youth only felt that Chen Zhao might not be a skilled spiritualist, at least in terms of basic knowledge. Qin Zhao was rather ignorant. Just then, Anpa came back with a cart. It was filled with the resources she'd bought from the supermarket. "Mr. Qin, why are you here?" "Anpa, I came to talk to you and Mr. Clive about something." Qin Zhao looked at Anpa sincerely. In fact, he had a good impression of Anpa and the Clive couple. They'd brought danger to Jerlin because of their mistakes, but they hadn't caused any actual harm to Jerlin. However, they didn't cause any substantial harm to little Jerlin, and little Jerlin managed to survive the danger in the end without much harm. During that incident, Qin Zhao couldn't blame them even if he wanted to. They didn't avoid responsibility or push it away. Instead, they calmly admitted their mistakes. They'd even chased Jerlin to Istanbul and encountered danger. Actually, they had made some mistakes in that matter, but Feilai and little Jerlin were also at fault. Therefore, Qin Zhao couldn't blame them at all. Also, Qin Zhao admired their attitude. "About what?" "Anpa, are you interested in starting a preschool or kindergarten?" Qin Zhao wouldn't be at ease if Sindora and Mara were sent to a regular preschool. However, Qin Zhao agreed with Anpa and Clive's attitude and actions, which was rare. Feilai also approved of them very much. "Mr. Qin, we don't have the money to start a kindergarten," Anpa said with a bitter smile. "Money isn't a problem. I can provide the funds." "Mr. Qin, what's your goal?" "Mara and Sindora are already 5 and 6, Qin Zhao said. "They're not at school age yet, but they need to learn some things. But there's no need to start a kindergarten, right?" "No, not me," Qin Zhao said matter-of-factly. "You can. I'm just sponsoring." "Then what do you want?" "If Sindora and Mara go to school in the city, I'll be worried," Qin Zhao said sincerely. "You're closer to my home, and I trust you. I trust that you truly love and protect every child." Anpa was actually quite tempted. She liked children. It could be said that this was her selfishness. Qin Zhao's suggestion was exactly what she wanted. It would be such a blissful thing if he could watch those innocent faces play and have fun in front of him every day. "Also, I heard from Didi that you're qualified to be a kindergarten teacher," Qin Zhao said. "The only thing I'm not satisfied with is the conditions and environment here." After all, Jerlin had eaten something wrong here last time. That was why everything had happened. Putting that aside, Anpa and Clive were both very good candidates. This was the aspect that Qin Zhao could easily change. As long as he had money, it was fine. He could let them open a kindergarten in a more lively part of town. It was closer to the police station and fire station, and it would be easier to go to other places. Chapter 2479. Anpa didn't agree directly. Instead, she said that she needed to discuss it with Clive. But from Anpa's expression, he could tell that she was tempted. Qin Zhao wasn't in a hurry. He left after exchanging some pleasantries. "Qin, I heard something." Qin Zhao received Alex's call. At the moment, Qin Zhao was fishing while Jerlin was diving in the water. She often pulled the hook underwater too. She thought that she could trick Qin Zhao this way. Qin Zhao would also pretend to be tricked and show an indignant expression. Then he would look at Jerlin's smug expression because he would feel happy himself. "What is it?" Qin Zhao asked. "You asked me to pay attention to Tiger's movements. I heard that he's been looking for foreign boxers. He seems to be choosing an opponent. You can choose an opponent in boxing. Challenge. This is very common in the boxing world. As long as both sides agree to it, and after discussing the commercial share and appearance fee, they can stand in the ring. With Tiger's current status in the boxing world, will anyone accept his challenge? Too many people want to fight him and become famous. Even if they know that they can't beat him, they still hope to use him as a stepping stone. There's also a small group of boxers who have an extravagant hope. What if they win? Does that mean anyone can challenge him? Chun Zhao asked. No. First, he has to be famous and influential. Only then will sponsors be willing to give huge prize money. For boxers at Tiger's level, he'll charge at least $100 million in appearance fee for other matches, apart from the regular season and points competitions. Does that mean that if I can afford his appearance fee, I can arrange a fight with him? I said that only if both sides agree. You can't do it unilaterally. That depends on how determined you are. In other words, as long as I pay a big enough price, I can decide unilaterally? Is that what you mean? In the history of the boxing world, there was once a duel that used deceit. A nameless amateur boxer spent a large sum of money to buy the media to carry out 3 months of continuous false reports of the match. In the newspapers, he was portrayed as the invincible Jean. He clearly had never fought in any abnormal professional matches, but he became a supernova in the boxing world. No one had even seen his matches, but he had all sorts of incredible titles. Then he issued a challenge to the #1 boxer at that time. Under the watchful eyes of all the media, the #1 boxer at that time accepted the challenge. Hundreds of sponsors provided a prize pool of $150 million. The winner would receive 80% of the prize pool, and the loser would receive 20% of the prize pool. In the end, of course, the swindler lost. Even so, he still received $30 million in income, and his income was absolutely legitimate. Other than the tax bureau, no one could find trouble with him. What if my fighter already has a certain level of fame? That's not a problem, Alex said. How much are you willing to pay? As long as Tiger is willing to accept the challenge, I can pay as much as you want, but I have a request. What? The winner takes all, Qin Zhao said. Are you sure? I'm very sure, Qin Zhao said calmly. First, confirm how much you're going to pay. Then $200 million, Qin Zhao said. Qin, I don't know what happened between you and Tiger, but I have to remind you. Even if you want to destroy him with a challenge like this, even if the winner takes it all, you won't get $200 million in the end, because you'll have to pay taxes. That's right. How much do I have to pay? Very high. The highest in Los Angeles is 49%. The prize money for a match like this is definitely the highest. Spend $100 million to fix Tiger? It wasn't that Chen Zhao didn't want to spend the money, but he didn't think that Tiger was worth it. If it cost $100 million to fix Tiger, Chen Zhao would do it himself instead of wasting it. It's difficult, but it's not completely impossible, Alex said. There are many ways to recoup the cost for a match that's based on winning. First, find a place with lower taxes. Second, find more sponsors. With Tiger's fame, it's easy to get a lot of sponsors. I'll leave this to you. If my loss is less than 10%, you'll get an extra 1% commission. It can be accumulated. If I can make money, you can get more commission too. Alex's smile became even more brilliant. Deceiving her boss to get more benefits, was indeed a very effective method. Of course, most of what Alex said was true. Only one sentence was false. Difficult. In fact, this kind of thing was too easy for her. When Chen Zhao said that he would use $200 million to teach his former disciple a lesson, Alex was already tempted. She was already tempted. If Chen Zhao gave her commission for this money, she would earn a lot. It was easy for rich people to earn money, just like Qin Zhao. As long as he had enough capital, he would be able to catch more and bigger fish. Qin Zhao's main goal wasn't even to earn money. But Alex was able to turn a vengeance ceremony into a commercial competition. The sponsors wouldn't have any objections either. They would spend a lot of money to sponsor Tiger's match. Although it was because of Tiger's fame, if the match could definitely cause a sensation, the sponsor's investment would be multiplied. The sponsor's investment would be multiplied by several times. How to create a sensational effect in this match? That was Tiger would lose. Actually, the entire boxing world thought that Tiger wouldn't lose. He wouldn't lose no matter what opponent he faced. But if he really lost, it would shock the entire world. Bach realized that Tiger was getting more and more irritable these days. He was also clearly losing control. Yesterday, he'd seriously injured a maid who'd broken her life. If Bach hadn't spent money to shut the maid's family up, Tiger's career would have failed. In this country with a huge gap between the rich and the poor, people envied and hated the rich. Right now, Tiger was undoubtedly a rich person. If it was said that he'd beaten up a maid, he'd go from a sports hero to a sinner that everyone wanted to beat up. Bach had tried to persuade him a few times, but Tiger rejected him coldly every time. Bach could never imagine that Tagore would say something so outrageous. Chapter 2480. What troubled Bach the most wasn't Tiger's violent tendencies. It was his distrust of him and the company. Now, every time Bach said that the company could take care of him, Tiger would fiercely retort. If they could really take care of him, he wouldn't have to hide abroad. Bach didn't know how to retort because he didn't have any reason to. Mediko Pavic did indeed disappoint him. In the past, Mediko Pavic could solve a problem in less than 3 days. But this time, 10 days had passed, and he still didn't get any reply. There wasn't even a message. A few days ago, he went to see Mediko Pavic. Mediko Pavic's attitude was the same as Tiger's: anxious, irritable, and inexplicably fearful. This caused some changes in Bach's mentality. He didn't trust his boss as much anymore. That omnipotent boss seemed to be in trouble too. Today, Tiger lost control and went crazy again. Although he didn't hit anyone, Bach heard Tiger roaring in the living room as soon as he entered the villa. The servant was facing Tiger submissively. Bach suddenly felt tired. Fortunately, the servant was scared and didn't get hit by Tiger. Bach was planning to go in and talk to Tiger while he was resting. But a phone call interrupted his thoughts. "Hello, this is Bach." "Who is this?" "Mr. Bach, are you interested in a meal?" "Sorry, I'm not interested in eating with strangers," Bach said and wanted to hang up. "Mr. Bach, I admire your attitude, but I hope that you can have this kind of tough attitude when you're in prison." "Who are you? What do you mean? Are you threatening me? Do you know what this means?" Veins popped on Bach's forehead. Threatening? This wasn't the first time he'd been threatened, but he wasn't afraid. He wasn't a young man who just entered society. He'd been a manager for a long time. He'd met too many people and seen too many tricks. He wouldn't be scared by a single sentence. "I found a former sprinter called Lonka Dallas. We had a good chat. I heard a lot about Mr. Bach from him." "Lonka Dallas." Bach's eyelids twitched. That was a sprinter he'd coached 3 years ago. Lonka Dallas had a brief moment of glory. However, in the end, his career was ruined by drugs and various scandals. "That guy is just a loser, a destitute loser. I don't know how much money you gave him, but I don't think anyone will believe him no matter what he says." Bach said disdainfully. Lonka Dallas did know a lot of his secrets. But as long as Lonka Dallas couldn't produce concrete evidence, everything was meaningless. How could Bach allow an abandoned pawn to have a handle on him? If there really was something on him, Lonka Dallas wouldn't be alive now. No one will believe his words, but I will create convincing evidence, especially evidence that will convince the judge. "Oh, right, my name is Alex. I am now the owner of the largest law firm in Southern California." Bach's face darkened. "Miss Lawyer, you shouldn't have provoked me." "Mr. Bach, because I'm scared by your words. I think you'll die in prison, and you'll go to prison within 3 days. You don't need to be charged with any real crime. You know that's what I do. Then, in the next week, you'll have an accident in prison." Alex had never been a dutiful lawyer. If she was a pure lawyer, she would never be able to make a name for herself in this country. She knew very well that when you faced a villain, you needed more than the law. "Miss Lawyer, do you think I have no power in prison? You picked the wrong opponent." "Yes, I know you do. Los Angeles, first prison. Third prison, Barrack Prison. But I also know that your assets are only $2 million. How much cash can you use to protect yourself? And I can buy your head with double or triple the price of your net worth, or even 10 times the price. Bach's face stiffened. After a moment of silence, he said, Miss Lawyer, I'm not worth that much money. If you give me $2 million, I will personally hand my head to you. Bach had already given in. He did have connections. He was not afraid of going to the police station or prison. Because he could settle things no matter where he went, he would be able to come out safely. But those connections were not the power that he had grasped himself. If someone offered more money to make things difficult for him, or even directly bought his head, there would be a lot of people who would be willing to work for them. Bach lived in the dark, so he knew better than anyone the horror of the dark. Then, do I have the honor to treat you to a meal? Of course, you decide the place and time. I'll treat you to a meal. Today, I've already booked a private room at Marina's restaurant. Bach's heart was a little heavy. The other party was obviously going to eat him. Otherwise, why would he book a private room at Marina's restaurant in advance? Bach had been to Marina's restaurant more than once. He knew that the rules there were quite strict. To book a reservation, one had to be at least a few days in advance. And he did not know how he had offended the big lawyer. In this country, you could go against anyone, even the president. But there were two types of people you could never offend. One was the reporters. They were the uncrowned kings. The other was the lawyers. They were gangsters, scoundrels, and villains. Even the real gangs did not want to offend lawyers. They waved the big stick of the law and knocked over the lambs one by one. He wanted to know what the female lawyer wanted. Her target was definitely not him. If the other party's target was him, they wouldn't be calling him. She would have sent him straight to prison. Bach really did not have the confidence to fight against someone who controlled an entire law firm. After all, he had too many black marks on him. Some of the black spots were even fatal. Against an entire law firm, he might not only lose his freedom, but also his precious life. So, after the first wave, Bach decisively gave in. Giving in wasn't something shameful. He would rather break than bend. He was not suitable to live in this society. Bach glanced at Tiger in the living room and silently turned to leave. Chapter 2481. On a date, the person who arrived first was the one who was psychologically weaker, even if the date wasn't romantic. Bach waited in the private room Alex had reserved for half an hour before Alex finally arrived. Bach saw that Alex was very pretty and young, but he didn't have time to admire her beauty. All he could feel was the oppressive aura that Alex exuded. Before coming, he'd done a detailed investigation on Alex. Alex had a resounding title in the legal world, the Queen of Law. Of course, she also had a record that matched her title. And what made her ascend to the throne was that she had personally sent the drug lord Farret Antonio to prison half a year ago. Bach knew about it, but he didn't know that Alex was the mastermind. But what really concerned him wasn't the case itself. It was Farret Antonio's revenge. He'd announced in court that he would take revenge on the lawyer. In the end, the next day, Farret Antonio died in prison, and he died a very, very tragic death. It definitely wasn't a government assassination. It was the work of an enemy. Farret Antonio's power was also uprooted in one night. Bach felt that Alex had something to do with it. "Hello, Mr. Bach." "Hello, Ms. Alex. Try the food here. It's pretty good." It wasn't Bach's first time here. He'd tasted the food here before, but today he really didn't have an appetite. "Miss Alex, do you have any instructions for me? I heard you're Tiger's manager." "Yes." Bach perked up. He guessed that she wanted to work with him. No, if she wanted to work with him, she didn't need to threaten him. Tiger is an excellent boxer. "Ms. Alex, if you want to work with him, I'm happy to talk to you." Even though he guessed that she wasn't here to work with him, Bach still probed. Alex pushed a document in front of Bach. Bach flipped open the document and looked at it, and his brows could not help but furrow. It was evidence of Tiger's crimes. There was a lot of it too. He couldn't tell how much was real and how much was fake. But one thing was for sure. If the evidence was in Alex's hands, she could definitely send Tiger to prison. What do you want? Tiger will definitely go to jail, but before that, I think he still has value. Bach frowned. What do you want? Alex then threw another contract to Bach. Bahi's expression changed again. This was a challenge, and the one who issued the challenge was Syndicate. Bach suddenly looked up at Alex. Syndicate? It was actually Syndicate. The Syndicate has no value. Bach said matter-of-factly, his reputation is already bad. He can't get sponsors at all. Also, he can't beat Tiger. That's my problem. You just need to get him to sign the contract. Bach looked at Alex in confusion, but Alex didn't give him any explanation. Bach had to weigh the pros and cons. Giving up on Tiger meant giving up on long-term benefits. That meant that he had to obtain enough benefits before the last one. But how could he get enough benefits from Tiger? It was not easy. Bach had only accumulated a little more than $2 million USD after all these years of cheating and cheating. He had high hopes for Tiger. As long as he didn't cause any trouble, Tiger's future was limitless. If he decided to give up on Tiger now, he had to make sure that Tiger lost in the challenge. If he only relied on the commission, it wouldn't be enough to satisfy his appetite. Only by betting on him to lose in the underground lottery would he be able to obtain enough benefits. But how? It wasn't easy. But if he didn't agree, Bach was worried that Alex would target him. In view of Alex's past achievements, she was nothing in front of her. But Bach didn't want to give up on long-term benefits. My boss will take out $200 million USD as the prize pool for this challenge, Alex said. Bach was shocked. Your boss is... Don't ask what you shouldn't. Alex looked at Bach coldly. Bach couldn't help but mutter. He looked down at the contract before him. He suddenly saw how the prize pool would be split. The winner would take it all. Bach couldn't help but look up. He was sure that no matter who his opponent was, he wouldn't waste $200 million. The $200 million was bait, but he didn't plan on letting anyone take it. What do you want me to do? Bach asked. Let Tiger sign this contract. I also need an authorization. I know many rich people. I can use Tiger's name to ask them for sponsorship. You can also find as many sponsors as you can. Bach nodded silently. Then he asked, What do I get after this? Bach didn't care about Tiger's life or death. He only cared about how much this challenge could bring him. 2% of the net profit, Alex said. Sure. Bach finally made up his mind. 2% of the net profit was just the minimum of $200 million. After deducting the taxes, he would still get more than $1 million. If he could pull in more sponsors, then he could live happily for the rest of his life without doing anything. Moreover, he could obtain more profits from the underground gambling. Of course, the underground lottery was risky. Working with Alex was basically risk-free. Because he didn't put in a single cent, the only difference was how much he earned. Even if Alex's plan failed, he wouldn't lose anything. But it was hard to say for the underground lottery, although he believed that Alex definitely had her own plan. But who could say for sure in a competition like this? Plus, he knew very well how terrifying Tiger was, especially after Bach provided him with the devil potion he got from a special source. Tiger's current strength was already inhuman. How could Syndicate beat Tiger? The instant kill last time was enough to show the difference in strength. Also, don't let Tiger know that it's Syndicate who challenged him. Why? If he finds out it's Syndicate, he'll definitely reject. Why? Because he knows who's supporting Syndicate. Bach's eyes flashed. He remembered that Tiger kept saying it was his teacher. Chapter 2482. Tiger's teacher finally made his move. He finally fought back. Bach suddenly thought of an idea that only benefited himself. The grudge between Tiger's teacher and Tiger. They could solve it themselves. It had nothing to do with him anyway. It didn't matter even if Tiger was sent to jail by his teacher. As long as he got enough benefits, it was fine. No matter how powerful Tiger's teacher was, he couldn't possibly know that Tiger was completely different from before. So, Tiger had a higher chance of winning this battle. So, he should make this battle happen. But in the underground lottery, he should bet on Tiger. Thinking of this, Bok smiled. I'll think of a way to get Tiger to sign the contract. That's for the best. Alex finally smiled and nodded. Deep in the mountains outside London, England, there was only a muddy mountain road here. Coupled with the continuous rain, the road became even more difficult to walk. Mediko Pavic walked alone on the mountain road. The equipment on his body did not save him energy. Instead, it required him to expend more energy to carry the equipment. But it was necessary. After all, the nights here were very cold. The fog in the mountains couldn't be dispelled. One never knew when one's feet would slip. He didn't have to come here himself. But Hamson and the crown of immortality he'd created had completely gone out of control. Just the day before yesterday, he lost contact with everyone from the crown of immortality. This made him feel an unprecedented sense of danger. He needed to get rid of this danger. He needed to regain control of this power. So he came here again. Just then, the fog was suddenly blown away by a cold wind. Mediko Pavic's eyes suddenly opened up. It was a rough village, dozens of small or even shabby houses. There was also a not-so-small open field. He could vaguely see people working in the field. Mediko Pavic walked with heavy steps, but his body and mind were completely relaxed. Finally here. He was finally back here. Just then, an old man walked over. The old man was draped in coarse hemp, which was trimmed crudely. Mediko, you're back again. Yes, Mr. Mansuk. Mansuk was the second generation of this place, and was second only to Hamson, who left this place. Hamson chose to leave while Mansuko chose to stay. It wasn't because Mansuk was willing to live a normal life, but because he knew that if he left this place, he would still be under Hamson. If he chose to stay, he would become the leader of this place. In the words of the Chinese, it was better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. Mr. Mansuk, I need your help, Mediko said. Hamson can't help you. I think we're no longer collaborators. He broke his promise to me. Medek Pavic said, I don't need you to deal with him. What I need is to establish a new partner. Mansuk silently raised his head. His eyes were shining with brilliance, without a trace of decaying gloominess. Of course, he knew that the outside world was more interesting than this small mountain village. Of course, he didn't want to stay in this remote and desolate place forever and be trapped here for the rest of his life. He didn't choose to go out the first time because Hamson went out first. But now the second chance was in front of him. This time, he desired it more than the first time. In the few years that Hamson had been away, he had completely mastered this place. So he no longer feared Hamson. He instilled his will into everyone here. Mansuk looked at Mediko. I'm more reliable than Hamson. I need a stronger guarantee. I've already been betrayed once. I can make a contract, Mansuk said. A contract that can't be violated, and I can make Hamson pay for his betrayal. Mediko raised his brows, but he quickly returned to normal. I don't need it. You're all family. There's no need to fight over this. No, it's necessary, Mansuk said. Hamson took most of the elites with him, Mediko said. Of course, he wanted to make Hamson pay, but Hamson took most of the main force. He didn't think Mansuk and the people he recruited could pose any threat to Hamson. He did take away the young children, but he couldn't take away everything. What do you mean? Mediko asked in confusion. Mansuk's face showed a proud expression. After Hamson left, I started to investigate why my father chose to settle here. A year ago, I finally found a reason. Mediko couldn't help but look at Mansuk. It seemed like he had made a great discovery. You can't imagine what's hidden here. Can you tell me? Let me take you there to have a look. Mediko Pavic was also very curious. Where did Mansuk's confidence come from? Why was he beaming with joy? He followed Munsuk's footsteps and came to a damp cave. Halfway through the cave, the walls suddenly turned into purple crystals. The purple crystals shone faintly, allowing them to see the situation along the way without the need for lighting. They walked all the way to the deepest part of the cave, where there was a huge purple crystal. There seemed to be a few figures inside the purple crystal. As an ordinary person, you can't feel the magic aura inside. What's this? Also, is there something inside? Madeko Pavich asked curiously. Extraordinary, unclean witch, mortal enemy of the Supreme King, Munsuk said. I'm not a wizard. I don't know what these names mean. She's King Arthur's half-sister, and also the legendary wizard Merlin's mortal enemy. She's Morgan Le Fay, Mansik said. In the legends of our clan used to be Wizard Merlin's servants. Our ancestors followed Wizard Merlin, and our fathers returned here to live in seclusion because Wizard Merlin's lifelong enemy is here. Morgan Le Fay. Madeko touched the purple crystal. There seemed to be a few figures inside. Those are her followers. Is she sealed now? 9 Heavens God King. Chapter 2483. Mansuk didn't answer Madeko Pavich's question directly. Instead, he reached out to a protruding corner of the amethyst and forcefully pulled it off. The corner of the amethyst was directly pulled off. Mansuk placed the amethyst fragment in front of his nose and took a deep breath. The amethyst fragment immediately turned into purple smoke and was sucked into Mansuk's nose. Mansuk seemed to be enjoying an extreme pleasure. He let out a soft moan, and his body slightly trembled. It was a feeling of extreme pleasure that made people unable to stop even if they wanted to. At this time, the amethyst fragment in Mansuk's hand was only half its original size. Mansuk looked at Madeko Pavich and stretched out his hand. Do you want to try it? I promise you'll love this feeling. What's the use of this? Don't you want to feel the joy of magic? The joy of magic? Madeko Pavich looked at Mansuk in confusion. It can let you temporarily gain magic power and power. You mean it can let me master magic? That's right. Mansuk nodded. This isn't a seal, it's the fruit of self-wisdom. What's the fruit of self-wisdom? When the ancient wizards' magic power, wisdom, and knowledge reached a certain level, they would be limited. This was the limit that God gave to humans. It was impossible to surpass or break through. The reason why humans are humans and gods are gods is because of the existence of the limit. Mansuk said, but there are still some mortals with supreme wisdom and talent who try to break through the limit given by God. Some succeeded and became a god, while others failed. The result is self-evident. There is another kind of person who doesn't forcefully break through the limit of God. They choose another method, which is to transform themselves into the fruit of self-wisdom. Morgan Le Fay is one of them. Mansik continued, Morgan Le Fay was King Arthur's sister, but she didn't have the right to inherit the throne, so she had always been against King Arthur and Wizard Merlin. Morgan Le Fay had the upper hand most of the time, but she couldn't break through her own fate. Humans can't get rid of the shackles of fate. Only God has the freedom to choose, so Morgan Le Fay had to become a god in order to counterattack. Thus, she created this method to transform herself into the fruit of wisdom, also known as shedding God. Wizard Merlin also knew that if Morgan Le Fay succeeded, it would be the destruction of King Arthur and his royal authority. Thus, he did everything he could to stop Morgan Le Fay's god-molting spell. However, even Wizard Merlin couldn't stop this spell, so he thought of another method, which was to slow down the completion time of the spell. Is this amethyst hard to destroy? Madeko Pavich asked doubtfully. Just now, Mansik had clearly broken the amethyst with a casual twist. It didn't seem to be indestructible. Take a look. Mansik pointed at the spot where the amethyst was broken off and found that the amethyst had grown back. Huh. When I broke off a corner, it was equivalent to using my own magical knowledge to replace it. Mansic said, back then Wizard Merlin was the same. No matter how much he destroyed the fruit of wisdom, he didn't really destroy it. Instead, he replaced it. He used his own magical knowledge to replace Morgan Le Fay's God-molting spell. In the end, he could only choose another method to stop Morgan Le Fay. If I keep destroying it, will I be able to release Morgan Le Fay? Maybe, Mansic said in an uncertain tone. Then, do you want to release her? Of course not. After all, she's a legendary wizard. You can't guarantee that when you face her, you'll be able to control her and not be controlled by her. Then, why did you bring me here? Hamson took away the most outstanding wizard. Under normal circumstances, even if I gather all the remaining people, we won't be able to defeat him. The only way to defeat him is with her, Morgan Le Fay. As long as we bring her with us, we'll have unlimited power. Then we'll bring her with us. That's our biggest problem now, Mansic said. This purple crystal is too big. Unless we can find 20 strengthening spiritualists, we won't be able to move such a huge and heavy purple crystal. Then what? We can only rely on your manpower and resources. Can't other spells work? Only strengthening magicians can. Other spells can't be used on this purple crystal. Mediko Pavich thought about it and said, I can't do it alone, but are you sure you want me to bring people from the outside in? I can bring people out first. Then you can bring people in and move the things out. No problem. Gaia, how's Syndicate's training? Not bad. After you strengthened his body, his adaptability is very high. He's even better than Tiger. The difference between the two was very big. After all, from the optimization of the perfect potion to the simplification of the training method, the effect was much better than before. Syndicate's physical fitness was also very good. Syndicate looked like he was already in his 30s. His competitive level seemed to be declining. In fact, a person's physical fitness was at its best when they were 30 to 33. This was because a person's stamina, explosiveness, and reflexes had all reached a balance after a long period of training. People at this stage had the highest level of balance. Therefore, many athletes at this age might seem to have an obvious decline in their best sports. But it wasn't actually a decline in physical fitness. Instead, it was the improvement of the human body's overall ability. Syndicate was like this. His physical fitness had been adjusted to the best. Under these circumstances, the strengthening was naturally more effective than the young Tiger. I'll go take a look, Chen Zhao said. Chen Zhao drove to Gaia's gym. After greeting a few trainers along the way, he went straight to Gaia's private gym. As soon as he entered, he heard a heavy and sharp whistle. Faster, faster, faster. Your punches aren't fast enough, and they aren't heavy enough. Faster, heavier. Chapter 2484. Hinga attacked Gaia crazily. He was practically using his full strength on the stage to attack. Gaia, on the other hand, had a watertight defense against him. No matter how fast his punches were or how strong he was, he couldn't move Gaia's shield. It felt as if the board was blocking the wall. No, even if it was a wall, he could shatter it. However, when his fist landed on the baffle, he felt as if his fist had landed on an iron wall. Hinga also realized that not only had his stamina recovered, but it was even better than before. He was stronger, faster, and more sensitive. If it was his previous opponent, he was confident that he could beat the crap out of his opponent within 3 rounds. But facing Gaia, he felt like he could be KO'd at any time. And this was not just his conjecture. Gaia would always end the day like this during every training session. This way of ending humiliated Xianjia greatly. It would destroy the confidence he'd just built up. Qin, you're here. Gaia turned to look at Qin, but then he yelled at Hinga. Continue. Don't be lazy. Indeed, Syndicate wanted to take a break with Chen Zhao's arrival. Gaia was definitely a demon coach. Okay, let him rest. Chen Zhao glanced at Hinga. Then, okay. The moment Gaia agreed, Hinga's hair stood on end. It's here. Danger is here. The almost instinctive reaction made Hinga feel the approaching danger. Hinga immediately went into a defensive position. Gaia glanced at Hinga and suddenly smiled. Not bad. You can predict danger in advance. This time, Gaia didn't punch. Instead, he walked toward Qin Zhao. Just then, Syndicate said, "Boss, I'm not as strong as Miss Gaia, but I think I can beat Tiger. I can beat him until he's looking for his teeth on the floor." "No, you can't." Qin Zhao shook his head. "No, I can't." Hinga still firmly believed that he could. Suddenly, Gaia turned around abruptly and rushed to Syndicate's front in 3 steps. Whoosh! Hinga did not even have time to raise his arms, and Gaia's fist was already inches away. Before Gaia's fist could even touch Hinga, Hinga could already feel the terrifying pressure. However, this time, Gaia's fist deviated from Hinga's face and passed by his side. Sniff! Xianjia heard a sharp whistling sound. If this punch landed on his body, he would either die or be crippled. "You'd probably need to be twice as strong as you are now to barely block that punch," Gaia said. "That's roughly what Tiger showed back then. But since Tiger might not have used his full strength back then, he might have held back some of it. So, even if you're as strong as him, it's hard to guarantee that you'll win." "That's right," Qin Zhao said. "I don't need a barely maintained arena. I need your absolute power to crush me." How could I be twice as strong? Tiger can't be that strong." "Neither can I." "No, you can," Gaia said calmly. "When your boss treated you a few days ago, he also stimulated your potential. You should feel that your physical fitness has been improving by leaps and bounds. What you can feel and what you can use is only a portion of your potential. When you truly grasp all of your strength, that will be the time for you to step into the ring." Gaia said indifferently. Potential? Hinga had indeed felt the changes in himself. He had also guessed that the training Qin Zhao had given him over the past few days had brought about changes. Gaia's words only confirmed his guess. What he really did not expect was that Gaia actually told him that he had not fully grasped the potential that he had stimulated. "What do I need to do to fully grasp it?" "Get beaten up," Gaia said. "Did Tiger receive the same training in the past?" "Yes." "Then, okay." Hearing this, the resistance in Hinga's heart finally dissipated. "Since he can endure it, so can I. I can also receive harsher training as long as it doesn't kill me." "That's all for today," Qin Zhao said. "Hinga, your daughter is out of the isolation ward. You can go see her today." "Huh? She's out of the isolation ward? Is it okay to leave so soon?" Hinga was pleasantly surprised when he heard that his daughter had left the isolation ward, but then he had a new worry. "I checked her before I came. She's recovering well. She's basically like a normal person now. She hasn't been discharged yet because there's still a period of observation. Also, she needs to come into contact with the outside air. It's not best for her to stay in the isolation ward. You're the doctor. Whatever you say." Hinga also knew that Qin Zhao had not slacked at all when it came to taking care of his daughter. Hinga was still grateful to Qin Zhao, even after the torture Qin Zhao had given him in the past few days. "Boss, Gaia is giving me special training now. Will my daughter be in danger?" "Someone's helping to take care of her," Qin Zhao said. "No bad guys can get close to your daughter." After changing his clothes, Hinga got into Qin Zhao's car. When they arrived at the hospital, Hinga stood before his daughter's ward and took a deep breath, adjusting his emotions. "What? You don't want to see your daughter?" "No," Hinga said with a bitter smile. "I just think that I'm very useless as a father." "Then don't disappoint me. Don't let your daughter lose her father," Qin Zhao said indifferently. Hinga felt that Qin Zhao was hinting at something. He thought of Tiger, Qin Zhao's student. Now he had become a target that Qin Zhao needed to eliminate. Qin Zhao also did not want to be betrayed again. The moment Hinga pushed open the door, he saw that the walls were pink. The corridor was not spacious because there were many dolls and dolls on the ground and in the corners. This was purely a children's room. It was specially made for children. Of course, they were also children from rich families. Seeing Hinga, the girl on the bed immediately called out in excitement, "Daddy." "Jickle." Hinga went up and hugged his daughter. It was a sense of satisfaction that he had never felt before. Jickle had a serious heart condition since birth. However, he did not have enough money. Moreover, Jickle was still young and not suitable for surgery. Therefore, he had missed the heart source several times. A suitable age, money, and heart source could not be found at any time. Every time Jickle had a heart attack, Hinga did not know if she could survive it. Chen Zhao's appearance had undoubtedly solved his worries. 9 Heavens, Divine King. Chapter 2485. Jickle saw Chen Zhao standing at the entrance. "Hi," Chen Zhao greeted. "I remember you. You're the doctor who operated on me that day." Jickle's eyes were filled with light. Chen Zhao nodded with a smile. "Little guy, I thought you were asleep that day, because I saw that dark-skinned fellow beside Uncle that day. I remember it very clearly." Chen Zhao was taken aback. Dark people. Chen Zhao remembered that he was the only one in the surgery room that day. Where did that black guy come from? But Chen Zhao suddenly remembered that he'd asked Blackie to be there too. If there was an accident, he'd ask Blackie to help. Did she see Blackie? Chen Zhao couldn't help but reevaluate Jickle. Jickle didn't have any magical aura. Plus, she hadn't awakened either. But why could she see Blackie, if what she saw was Blackie? After visiting Jickle, Singa's mood became better too. "Boss, I want to train one more night. Is Miss Gaia free? If not, you can go to her gym yourself," Chen Zhao said. "Also, take a taxi back." Chen Zhao left Singa at the hospital and drove back. On the way, he received a call from Ampa. "Mr. Chen, are you free?" "Yes." "Can you come to my house?" "Now." "Yes." "Sure." Chen Zhao arrived at Ampa's house. Cliff and Ampa were waiting for him at the door. "Mr. Cliff, Ms. Ampa, hello." "Hello, Mr. Chen." Cliff walked up and shook hands with Chen Zhao. "Please come in." The kid made a cup of tea for Chen Zhao. "Mr. Chen, I heard from Ampa that you want to open a kindergarten. Is that right?" "It's not that I want to open one. I want you to open one. I'll pay for it." "Ah, I don't care about profits." "Of course. I don't mind if you use it to earn more income. I want 60% of the profits. I'll pay for all the investments. The venue and classes need to be redesigned and rebuilt." Chen Zhao told them all his requirements. "Mr. Chen, the new venue and classes will cost more money. I don't think it's necessary. Our house plus the front and backyard is enough to open a kindergarten." "No, it's necessary." Chen Zhao's attitude was firm. "You should have the habit of making potions, right? Plus, I can smell that you've dumped most of the potion residue into the pit and buried it. You also have a lot of magic materials at home. These are dangerous for children." Chen Zhao paused. "My request is that there are no magic potions or materials in the kindergarten." Amber and Clive exchanged glances. They obviously knew why Chen Zhao made this request. After all, something had happened to his daughter here before. "I know you guys don't want the same thing to happen again. I don't want it to happen either. There are some things that children can't control. Even if you tell them that those things are dangerous, they will still try. That's why I only have one request. Prevent children from coming into contact with those things at the root." "Do I need to quit my job at Dashin Elementary School?" Clive asked. "It's up to you. If Ms. Ampa can handle it alone, you don't have to worry about it. Of course, you can also hire a few kindergarten teachers according to your needs. I don't care about the operation and management of the kindergarten. Just give me 60% of the net income every year." "Mr. Chin, how big are you planning to start?" Clive asked. "How big do you think you can manage?" No more than 30 children. Clive and I can be the kindergarten teachers at the same time, but we need at least one more kindergarten teacher, one security guard, and one cleaner. Give me a number. How much do you need? Mr. Chen, you'll be responsible for the construction of the venue and classroom. We'll take care of the other preparations and staff recruitment. You need to give us $50,000 as a starting capital. Here's a check for $100,000. Buy what you think you should buy, but I'll check the accounts. Clive accepted the check without hesitation. Clive, you know about the fire at Dashin Elementary School 4 days ago, right? I know. I suspect that a spiritualist started the fire. Are there any other spiritualists in Dashin Elementary School other than you? Do your children count? They don't. Then I don't think so. Unless they're far more powerful than me. There's no way I wouldn't know. Opening a kindergarten didn't require too much investment. Chun Zhao could first buy a large empty apartment in town. After some renovation, he could use it as a kindergarten. Then he would buy a small field for the children to run and play. As for the other things, he could buy them in the supermarket in Mountain Town. Chun Zhao wanted Clive and Ampa to open a kindergarten. Not only could Sindora and Mara go to school nearby, but Jerlin and Larissa would also have to go to school in the future. Chun Zhao didn't want them to go so far away. To Chun Zhao, even 10 kilometers from home was a long distance for his children. When he got home, Fei Lai and the children were already back. The underlings had also prepared dinner. After dinner, Chun Zhao and Fei Lai watched the stars on the rooftop and chatted about their own matters. Below them were the sounds of children playing. Everything seemed so peaceful and beautiful. At this moment, a figure silently approached Mirror Lake Manor. Chun Zhao said to Fei Lai beside him, "I'm going out for a while." "Go." With that, Chun Zhao landed from the rooftop and disappeared into the night. It was Murphy who approached Mirror Lake Manor. "Boss, what is it?" "Boss, 2 cows died on the pasture in the past 2 days." "Huh? How did they die? Of illness? Or were they bitten by wolves?" "They were probably bitten by something, but I don't know what exactly," Murphy said. "Judging from the wounds, it should be a large carnivore. The holes in the carcasses are quite serious. It seems like that thing had a big appetite." "Where are the carcasses? Take me there." Chun Zhao's Mirror Lake Manor was connected to the pasture. Chun Zhao's family didn't herd, so the cows, sheep, and horses were all free. Occasionally, some people would come to steal, but most of the time, Murphy would catch them. But this time, Murphy actually found out that 2 cows were missing the next day. This meant that the animal was very mysterious. 9 Heavens, Divine Emperor. Chapter 2486. Murphy brought Chun Zhao to the cow's carcass. The carcass started from the neck all the way to the abdomen. It was missing almost 1,000 kilograms of meat. Chun Zhao examined the carcass. There aren't any beast scratches on the cow. If a beast attacked the cow would definitely fight back. Then there would be large scratches during the fight. But there weren't any wounds on the cow. That was the biggest abnormality. Also, the only large carnivores here were wolves. Only a pack of wolves could kill a cow. Other small carnivores like lynx and puma couldn't kill cows. Plus, they couldn't eat so much meat. Chun Zhao couldn't help but think of the crypt demons. But then he thought about it carefully. The right side of Mirror Lake Manor was against the forest and connected to the mountains where the crypt demons were. But he had a good relationship with the crypt demons. They wouldn't attack his cows rashly. If they asked for beef, they could contact Chun Zhao. They wouldn't attack Chun Zhao's ranch stealthily. Plus, Chun Zhao would go to the crypt demon's nest every month to trade with them. This place was also very far from the crypt demon's nest. Crypt demons hated light too. It would take at least a day to go back and forth here. So, it could basically be ruled out that it was done by the crypt demons. But since it wasn't a crypt demon or a wolf pack, then what animal could have done it? Wild boars? That wasn't right. Wild boars were omnivores, but they wouldn't attack large animals like cows. Since there were no scratches on the cow, it could only have been killed in one blow. Only humans could kill a cow in one blow, right? But there were no traces of human activity at the scene, not even on the cow. Plus, if it was done by humans, they would need a reason. People had indeed stolen cows in the past, but their goal was to sell them for money. They didn't kill for the sake of killing. Chen Zhao squatted beside the cow's carcass and flipped through some of the wounds. Can you tell what animal bite marks are? Murphy also squatted beside the cow's carcass. The canine teeth are very powerful. They can bite through bones directly. Where's the other cow's carcass? Where is it? Not far. Boss, I'll take you there. The other cow wasn't far from the first carcass. There was less than 300 meters between them. The wounds and marks were exactly the same as the first cow's corpse. The two cows were attacked around here. Chen Zhao compared the positions of the two corpses. Then he looked behind him. Comparing the two positions in a straight line, the thing that attacked the herd should have come from this direction. Chen Zhao walked to the edge of the forest. At the moment, the forest seemed rather dark under the night sky. Chen Zhao walked into the forest. However, after walking for 20 minutes, he didn't find anything valuable. There were no signs of a vehicle or anything else. Therefore, humans should be excluded. There was no way a human could have come here on foot. After all, those who entered this place from the outside must have come from the periphery. However, they would have to walk for 20 to 30 kilometers, a large portion of which was a sandy desert, or from the direction of Mirror Lake Manor. But if he came from Mirror Lake Manor, there was no way he wouldn't know. And the chances of a stranger crossing Mirror Lake Manor were slim to none. What could come here without a sound, and then kill the cow in such a short period of time before it could even resist? Chen Zhao could almost eliminate the possibility of an animal, but the possibility of a human wasn't high either. Unless the person drove a helicopter here and did as he pleased, then took the helicopter and left. If that was really the case, how bored must the person be? The person's goal was to make trouble for Chen Zhao. However, the loss to Chen Zhao was almost negligible. There was another possibility. The person was a spiritualist. His goal, ability, and strength were unknown. Chen Zhao thought of the person who'd set fire to Mountain Elementary School. Could it be the same person who attacked the herd this time? It was indeed possible. Have there been any strangers in town recently? Didn't notice. Okay, be careful these few days. You don't have to work night shifts anymore. Go out with Rebecca for a few days. Chen Zhao didn't want Murphy to take the risk. He didn't know if the person was human, what their goal was, or what strength they had. Although Murphy was a vampire, he didn't seem to have grown since Chen Zhao first met him. He had no chance of winning against most spiritualists. Chen Zhao had heard from his mom that a vampire's strength needed time to accumulate. Murphy, on the other hand, was too young. He was still the lowest level of vampires. Boss, you won't fire me, right? Murphy panicked. Now that he was living with Rebecca, he knew the importance of money. Rebecca, on the other hand, spent money without restraint. If he lost this job, he really didn't know how to live. Perhaps he could find another job, but he knew how high his salary was. Would he be able to get his current salary if he found another job outside? He doubted it. No, I just want you to rest for a few days. You can't handle this. Boss, I can handle it, Murphy said firmly. I'll find the culprit and crush his balls. Okay, you don't have to handle it. Go out for a few days. If you don't have enough money, I'll sponsor you. Chen Zhao turned and left. Murphy stood there in a daze. Chen Zhao didn't have any other thoughts. After all, he'd promised Murphy's mom to take care of him. He couldn't really let Murphy face unknown dangers. But Murphy didn't think so. Because Chen Zhao wouldn't let him take responsibility, he felt that he had lost his value. The thing a person was most afraid of was losing his value. Murphy's eyes were filled with determination. After returning home, Rebecca was confused to see that Murphy was back so early. Murphy usually worked at night. Why was he back so early today? Murphy, how come you're back so early today? Aren't you going to look after the ranch today? Something happened at the ranch. Boss won't let me look after it anymore. What? You lost your job? Boss told me to rest for a few days. He won't let me work before the problem is solved. How can you do that? Rebecca knew better than Murphy how important his job was now. After all, Murphy was now in a high-paying job. $30,000 a month was enough for the two of them to live very, very comfortably. However, if he lost this job, it would be almost impossible for Murphy to find another one that was the same as his. Chapter 2487. This was a very scary thing for a family that was used to a high income. Once the family's main source of income was cut off, the family would fall apart at an alarming rate. Rebecca thought that Murphy was really going to lose his job. Murphy, we can't let this happen. What should I do? Catch the guy who attacked the cows. Rebecca said, You're a vampire. Murphy suddenly stood up. That thing killed a cow for 2 days in a row and ate more than half of it. This means that this guy has a huge appetite. Maybe he can help but come back to steal the cows tonight. Then what are you waiting for? Go catch that guy. At Rebecca's urging, Murphy hurried out. Murphy was used to the darkness. In the past 2 years, he had been nocturnal almost every day. In the past, he had been afraid of the darkness. But now he was no longer afraid. Murphy found a familiar place to settle down. Not far away were the cows. Under the night sky, the cows were very quiet. They were bunched up together. This kind of group activity could help them scare off the predators. During Murphy's time as a night patroller here, he had at most driven away the predators who came here to hunt. However, those predators were only a few North American wolves or cougars. This kind of predator could be considered as a second or third level predator. Most of their prey were sheep. They couldn't hunt herds of cows or horses, and Murphy wasn't difficult to deal with. The cougars basically ran away when they saw Murphy. Only the wolves were a little tricky. However, as long as they were beaten up by Murphy, the wolves would also run away dejectedly. Even after nearly 2 years, Murphy had become familiar with several nearby wolf packs. Occasionally, Murphy would throw a sheep to the wolves. Murphy waited until 3 in the morning, but there was still no movement from the cows. But at this moment, Murphy heard the howls of wolves coming from the forest in the distance. That was the wolves' cry for help. Murphy suddenly perked up and jumped out of the treetop, skimming across the night sky. Although Murphy hadn't fully awakened his vampire bloodline, but some abilities were gradually awakening. For example, gliding in the night sky, and an extraordinary physique. Murphy tapped lightly on the next treetop and flew more than 20 meters away again. At this moment, he was close to flying. However, this ability could only be used at night. Once it was daytime, he seemed to have lost the ability to glide. Murphy's speed was extremely fast. In just a moment, he had already traveled 2 kilometers. At this moment, the howls of the wolves became louder and louder. Murphy swooped down. From midair, Murphy could see the situation at the scene. An unknown beast that was close to 3 meters tall was fighting with the pack of wolves. It was more of a massacre than a struggle. There were already 7 or 8 wolves lying on the ground. The beast was still unscathed. Its black fur made it look glossy in the night. There were more than 10 wild wolves around them. The beast was about the same size as a lion or tiger, but it looked more powerful, faster, and more ferocious. These wild wolves were a combination of several wolf packs. Murphy recognized them. To be precise, he remembered their smell. The wolves also remembered Murphy. Therefore, when Murphy appeared, they did not attack him. Murphy pounced on the beast. The beast, which had its back to Murphy, seemed to sense the danger behind it. It suddenly turned around and bit at Murphy with its bloody mouth. Murphy was shocked. The beast's reaction was too fast. Murphy had no doubt that its bloody mouth could bite off his neck in one bite. Moreover, Murphy was falling at this time. There was no way for him to adjust his direction so quickly in such a short distance. Suddenly, a wild wolf pounced on the beast's neck. The wild wolf's whole body was hanging on the beast's neck, trying its best to push the beast's bloody mouth away. The beast slapped the wild wolf hanging on its neck to the ground with its paw. It pressed the wild wolf to the ground with its paw and opened its bloody mouth directly. Whimper, the wild wolf wailed. Its body spasmed twice and lost its strength. Blood splattered on Murphy's face. In an instant, Murphy's eyes turned red. "Huh!" A low growl came out of Murphy's mouth. His fangs were exposed uncontrollably. Hiss! Murphy's figure flashed. He passed by the beast at an unprecedented speed. Roar! A bloody mark was left on the beast's head. It was finally injured, but at the same time, it also aroused its ferocity. The beast roared and pounced on Murphy. Murphy didn't dodge the pounce and was directly pressed under the beast. Murphy instinctively clasped the beast's abdomen from below with his limbs. The beast tried to attack Murphy with its claws or fangs, but it just couldn't touch Murphy. At this moment, the wild wolf also launched its final attack. They went up and directly bit various parts of the beast's body with their teeth. Although the wild wolf's fangs couldn't break the beast's skin, it still used its own way to restrain this crazy beast. At this moment, Murphy directly clasped the beast's neck with his fangs. The beast felt the pain and began to roll wildly on the ground. It tried to rub Murphy off its body, but Murphy had already used all his strength on this at this moment. The paralyzing poison seeped out of the fangs and began to seep into the beast's body. The beast's struggle became weaker and weaker, but Murphy couldn't stop at this moment. He greedily sucked every drop of the beast's blood. When the last drop of blood was sucked dry, Murphy tore off the beast's neck. Roar! Murphy looked up to the sky and roared. The remaining dozen wild wolves also began to bite the beast crazily. They were venting their anger and avenging their companions at the same time. Soon, these wild wolves dismembered the beast. Murphy gradually calmed down. At this moment, Murphy saw something glowing red in the wreckage of the beast. "What is this?" Murphy picked up the thing and found that it was an electronic device. This electronic device was very small, only the size of a fingernail, and that was flashing red. At the same time, in a spherical building, countless staff in white coats were busy here. The vital signs of evolution number 6 have disappeared. How is that possible? There are no creatures that can threaten evolutionaries there. The reason is unknown. Can you find the location? Yes, the locator is not destroyed. Immediately lock the location of evolution number 6 and find out the reason. Chapter 2488. Murphy! Rebecca saw Murphy, who was covered in blood, stumbling through the door. She immediately rushed forward to help him. Rebecca was frightened. She'd never seen Murphy like this. Rebecca laid Murphy down on the sofa and peeled off his shirt to check his injuries. But she realized that there were no wounds on him. It wasn't Murphy's blood? Then whose bloodstain was this? Rebecca suddenly felt that this was a tricky situation. Murphy didn't have any wounds, but he seemed to be in a bad state. Should she call the doctor? Or Qinzhao? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly there was a whistling sound outside. What's that sound? Rebecca pulled open the curtains and saw a beam of light shining down from the night sky. Helicopter? Rebecca was a little surprised. Just then, 4 rails dropped from the helicopter. 4 fully armed gunmen descended from the sky. They were all wearing heat-sensing devices. Confirmed. The tracking device is in this room. There are 2 vital signs in the room. 1 female, 1 male. The male's body temperature is abnormal. From the device, the 4 gunmen realized that Rebecca's body temperature was normal, while Murphy's was obviously lower than normal. Confirmed. The 2 people in the room don't have any weapons. Prepare for a frontal assault. Rebecca was scared out of her wits. After a moment of panic, she suddenly realized that she had to find reinforcements. Rebecca hurriedly unlocked her phone, but in her panic, she pressed the wrong button several times. Clang! Just then, the floor-to-ceiling window in front of Rebecca was smashed. 2 metal cans were thrown in. Then, thick smoke spewed out of them. Cough, cough! Rebecca inhaled a lot of smoke. Then, a strong arm pressed her to the ground. The female target is under control. The male target is also. Bang, what happened? Where's the male? Kay's in trouble. He's dead. What exactly happened? Whoosh, dank. The second gunner was grabbed by the hand that stretched out from the fog and pulled into the fog. Dank. Hear the answer, hear the answer. Suddenly, the gunman heard something rolling on the ground. He looked down and saw Dank's head. This gave him a fright. Ben Rowe, fire at will. That man is still here. He killed Guy and Dank. While the gunner was informing his teammates, he did not notice a pair of blood-red eyes staring at him from the darkness. Ah! With a scream, the gunman, holding Rebecca, was the only one left in the room. The gunner was a little frightened. He hadn't even seen anyone, but his 3 fully armed and well-trained teammates had already disappeared. What was wrong with the man in the room? Don't move. Come out, or your woman will. The gunslinger had no choice but to use Rebecca to threaten Murphy. Who? Suddenly, a figure flashed through the thick smoke. The gunman immediately pulled out his gun and fired. But in the next instant, the machine gun in the gunner's hand was grabbed by another hand. How is this possible? The gunman was shocked. How could a person who was just a few meters away suddenly appear in front of him? Since the machine gun's body was grabbed, the gunner could not change direction even if he wanted to. However, the gunman was well trained after all. He immediately pulled out his gun and pointed it at Murphy behind him. However, the moment he turned around, he saw a bloody mouth coming at him. Ah! Right now, the pilot on the helicopter kept calling for his 4 teammates, but there was still no response. Clearly, something had happened to them in the room. You don't need to call for them anymore. The pilot suddenly heard a voice behind him. Turning around, he saw that someone had appeared in the back seat of the helicopter without him knowing. The person's face was covered in blood, making him look especially terrifying. You. Ah, beep, 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 boom. The helicopter crashed. Mr. Chin, something happened to Murphy. Something happened? What happened? Hurry and come over. The police will be here soon. Police. No matter what, don't answer any questions before the lawyer and I arrive. Qin Zhao said immediately. Got it. Qin Zhao did not understand what had happened. He could only inform Alex hurriedly and rushed to Murphy's house overnight. When he arrived, he saw a burning helicopter in front of Murphy's house. The police had already cordoned off the place. Rebecca was sitting in front of the house, shivering on the ground with a sheet draped over her. Sir, you can't go in here. The police stopped Qin Zhao, who was about to walk in. Kid, are you from Mountain Town's police station? Who are you? The young officer looked at Qin Zhao in confusion. I sponsored the construction of Mountain Town's police station. Your car, air conditioner, and even your overtime pay are all sponsored by me. The young officer immediately understood who Qin Zhao was. Mr. Qin, the young officer said helplessly, LAPD has taken over this place. I can only guard the perimeter. Don't worry. I know someone from LAPD, but no one will blame you. Even if someone does, I'll help you deal with it. Qin Zhao patted the young officer's shoulder and pulled open the cordon. The young officer did not dare to offend Qin Zhao. After all, half of his income was provided by Qin Zhao. His father and brother also worked at Qin Zhao's brewery. His brother's child also studied at the school Qin Zhao sponsored. Making things difficult for Qin Zhao was making things difficult for himself. Qin Zhao strutted over to Rebecca. Rebecca, where's Murphy? Who are you? Why are you here? The officer beside Rebecca looked at Chen Zhao with a scrutinizing gaze. Chen Zhao did not answer the officer's question at all. Murphy is inside. The police want to take him back. Why? What exactly happened here? Chen Zhao asked. Sir, if you don't tell me your identity, I'll have to take forceful measures against you. The officer had already taken out handcuffs. Hey, David, are you sleeping? Your men seem to want to take forceful measures against me. Chen Zhao dialed David's number. Just then he heard a familiar voice. You seem to have a habit of asking the boss for support. Chen Zhao turned around and saw Sharon standing behind him with her arms crossed. Hey, Sharon, you're not in charge of traffic anymore? Captain, do you know him? The previous officer asked. Sharon looked at Chen Zhao with a dark expression. Why are you here? Chapter 2489. Something happened to my employee. Is it weird that I'm here? Plus, my house is nearby. Your employee? You're a captain now. Chen Zhao asked curiously. What team are you in charge of? We're the Special Crimes team. What are we in charge of? Special cases. Sharon did not elaborate. Confidential? Sort of. Is my employee related to the case you're in charge of? Sharon pointed at the helicopter that was burning and crashing. The symbol on the helicopter is Cerberus, and Cerberus is the largest organization in North America that produces and sells contraband. They also engage in kidnapping, human trafficking, organ trafficking, and all sorts of illegal experiments. What does this have to do with my employee? That's what I'm most curious about. Why was your employee attacked by the Cerberus organization? Most importantly, your employee actually killed for well-trained mercenaries. I want to see my employee. Sharon remained silent. Chen Zhao added, My lawyer will be here soon. You don't want to deal with them, right? Fine, I'll give you 3 minutes. Chen Zhao saw Murphy. Murphy was in the room. Under Sharon's order, 2 police officers walked out. Murphy was curled up in a corner, shivering. It seemed like he was frightened too. Murphy, boss. Murphy looked up at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked at Murphy. You drank blood? Murphy nodded. His face and body were covered in blood. Murphy raised his head and looked at Chen Zhao in fear. Then he nodded silently. In the past, Murphy had lived like a normal person. There were no problems. At most, his body was slightly better than normal. Once he drank blood, his body would improve greatly. But after drinking blood, he would become addicted. Tell me what happened. Murphy took out a tracking device and said, Maybe this thing led those people here. Tracking device? Where did it come from? Murphy told Chen Zhao what had happened last night. Hearing this, Chen Zhao frowned. In other words, the Cerberus organization was the one who released the beast to his ranch? It was probably to collect data. However, this behavior clearly displeased Chen Zhao. Could it be that he had an honest face? Why did they put this thing in front of their own house? Then, Chen Zhao looked at Murphy. Are you disobedient? Boss, I'll deal with you later. When the police ask you later, just say that you don't know anything. You don't know why they attacked you. Boss, I killed 5 people and even shot down a helicopter. That was self-defense. Why do you care so much? After that, Alex came. Chen Zhao left after saying a few words. Agnes, your son seems to be in trouble. What trouble? He's being chased by an organization called the Cerberus, and he drank human blood today. What's the specific situation? Chen Zhao told her everything he knew. After a moment of silence, Agnes said, You shouldn't have let Murphy take the risk. Please don't put the blame on me. I've already given him a few days off, but he insisted on taking the risk. I can't watch over him all the time. Let's not talk about who's responsible now. We need to solve the problem first. Fine. How do you want to solve it? Chen Zhao asked. I've never heard of this Cerberus organization. I need to investigate it. Then I'll wait for your good news. After Agnes ended the call, Sharon walked over. Chin, we're friends, right? Of course. Especially after you stopped checking my license on the road. We're real friends. So you didn't treat me as a friend before? It's hard to be friends with someone who always finds me on the road. Fine. I don't want to dwell on this. I want to know what information you have and how much do you know. My employee picked up a locator and was attacked by the Cerberus organization. If he's just a normal employee, how could he kill 4 fully armed mercenaries? Oh, and he shot down a helicopter. He's not a normal employee. He's the security guard of my manor. I'm not satisfied with this explanation. Other than this, I can't give you any other explanation. Qin Zhao shrugged. I've investigated him. He's only 20 and doesn't have any special training. How could he kill so many mercenaries? No matter how he killed those 5 people, at least his actions and motives are legal. Qin, I thought that letting you see your employee was enough to show my sincerity. Sharon, you've changed. In the past, you were upright and would find me every time you saw me. Now, you know how to talk to me about the ways of the world. Sharon's face darkened and she trembled in anger. If you don't want to tell me, then don't expect me to make things easier for you in the future. Seeing Sharon leave in a huff, Qin Zhao could only shrug. He couldn't take Sharon to see the beast's carcass, right? However, thinking of the carcass, Qin Zhao still decided to go and take a look. Perhaps he could find some clues. Following the location Murphy had provided, Qin Zhao found the carcass. By now, the carcass was scattered all over the place. However, most of its skeleton and organs were still intact. Qin Zhao put away the carcass and went back to study it, looking at the wolf carcasses around him. Qin Zhao piled them up and cremated them. Just then, a helicopter suddenly flew past in the sky. Qin Zhao couldn't help but frown. Was it the Cerberus organization again? Were they searching for the carcass of the beast? Qin Zhao was considering whether he should let them search here and then follow them. Just then, Qin Zhao saw the logo on the helicopter. It wasn't an evil organization's helicopter. It was the logo of the forest rescue team. Usually, when travelers got lost or went missing in the forest, helicopters would be sent out to search for them. It seemed that it had nothing to do with him. Qin Zhao gave up on his initial idea. The helicopter only hovered in the sky for a minute and then left. Qin Zhao was about to leave when he suddenly felt a human presence at the edge of the small world. However, it was very weak and there were signs of wolf activity. Chapter 2490. Darren Heimerker hadn't drunk water for 2 days. It had been 3 days since he'd started exploring the desert and separated from the group. He'd used up all his water on the first day. He'd been unconscious for 6 hours during the day. He'd been exposed to the sun for a few hours. Fortunately, he'd woken up in the evening. If he hadn't woken up then, he would have definitely frozen to death. The temperature in the desert would plummet to below 0 at night. The desert was such an extreme environment. During the day, one would die of thirst. At night, one would freeze to death. However, at night, the biggest threat wasn't the low temperature, but the wolves. Right now, Darren Heimerker was facing the threat of the wolves. Those deep eyes were wandering in the dark night. That was the vision of the wolves. They weren't in a hurry to attack Darren Heimerker. They seemed to know Darren Heimerker's condition. They were waiting for Darren Heimerker to fall by himself. Then, they could go up and share the food without paying any price. Darren Heimerker was already staggering. Every step he took was extremely difficult. The wolves were also gradually approaching. Actually, they didn't need to go through so much trouble. As long as they pounced, Darren Heimerker wouldn't be able to resist at all. The dagger in his pocket was just a form of self-comfort. It had no use. At this moment the pack of wolves howled. They seemed to have run out of patience. Darren Heimerker started running. He also realized that the wolves were preparing to attack. However, even if he ran at full speed, he could only buy a little time. At this moment, a wolf pounced on him and bit his arm. Darren Heimerker couldn't break free. He rolled on the ground with the wolf. The wolf was extremely fast. Before Darren Hamer could react, it had already climbed back up and pounced on Darren Hamer. "I'm dead!" Darren Heimerker had already given up. He felt that there was no hope. Suddenly, just as the wolf was about to pounce on him, it flew backward without any warning. Darren Heimerker froze. He looked back and realized that someone had appeared behind him without him knowing. Scram! Chen Zhao raised a foot and kicked a wolf that pounced at him. Chen Zhao recognized the wolf pack, so he didn't kill them. The wolves howled at Chen Zhao and then ran away dejectedly. Darren Hemiko stared at Chen Zhao in shock. There was clearly no one nearby just now. Why did someone suddenly appear out of nowhere? Moreover, such a person kicked the wolf over and chased it away? No matter how Darren thought about it, it didn't seem right. Chen Zhao reached out to Darren. "Are you okay?" But Darren suddenly rolled away from Chen Zhao and took out his gun at the same time. "Don't come over. Who are you? Is this how you treat your benefactor? Answer me first. Who are you? Who do you think I am when you trespass on my ranch?" "Ranch? You're the owner of the ranch here?" Darren Hemmer was shocked. If there was a ranch, did that mean he was close to human habitation? That couldn't be right. How could a ranch owner wander around in the middle of the night without a weapon? Maybe I shouldn't have saved you. Instead, I should have let you get eaten by the wolves. Darren Hemiko hesitated for a moment. It seemed to be true. If he was one of those people, he indeed didn't need to do anything. He only needed to watch Chen Zhao get eaten by the wolves. He didn't need to waste time with Chen Zhao at all. "Sorry." Darren Haymerko finally put down his gun. "Why do you think I'm a bad person?" "Sorry, I was thinking too much," Darren said with his head lowered. However, he didn't trust Chen Zhao completely. Chen Zhao put his hands in his pockets. "Do you need me to call the police?" "No. No need. Can I have some food and water?" "Sorry, I don't bring strangers to my house." With that, Chen Zhao turned to leave. If he hadn't threatened him with a gun just now, he didn't mind taking him home, giving him some food and drinks, and also notifying the police or rescue team. But from his reaction, he didn't seem to be just lost. He probably had other troubles on him as well. Darren stared at Chen Zhao, his eyes flickering. "Sir, please don't reject someone who has a gun." "Ha! If you could use your gun, you wouldn't have kept it hidden when the wolves were chasing you." Chen Zhao looked at Darren mockingly. "You're right. You're right." Darren's expression changed. Indeed, it was as Chen Zhao had said. There were no bullets in his gun. "So your threat is meaningless." Chen Zhao walked toward Darren step by step. Darren couldn't help but take a few steps back. "In this environment, your life and death are in my hands. So what you did just now was very unwise." "Sir, I was just joking." "No, it wasn't." Darren pulled out his dagger. "Don't come any closer. I'll kill you." Chen Zhao shrugged with a smile. "Fine, you win. Goodbye." Seeing Chen Zhao leave so easily, Darren Hemiko could not help but hesitate. It seemed that this guy wasn't as strong as he'd imagined. Disdain rose in Darren's heart again. "Stop right there. What can I do for you?" Chen Zhao stopped again and turned to look at Darren. "I have a knife now, so you have to listen to me. Cold weapons can't create absolute deterrence. Are you sure you can threaten me with a dagger?" Chen Zhao walked toward Darren again. "Plus, I'm full of energy right now while you're exhausted. You have no advantage in terms of fighting or running. What makes you think that a dagger can make me listen to you?" Darren's face suddenly became very ugly. He couldn't help but wave his dagger as if to embolden himself. "I'm not joking with you. Do you know the wolves haven't gone far, and there are not only wolves here, but there are also North American brown bears. You don't have to scare me. Howl." Actually, the howl came from Black Ma and White Ma nearby. The two of them usually mingled with the nearby wolves and were basically the leaders of these wolves. Hearing the howls of the wolves, Darren Hemiko shivered in fear. Just then, he saw the wolves appear in the darkness again. Chapter 2491. Darren Hemiko was so scared that he peed his pants. He saw a dozen wolves standing on a slope not far away. He hadn't seen the two leading wolves before, but they were more than twice the size of the others. Darren Hemiko was trembling with fear. The wolf pack started approaching them. Darren turned around and ran in the opposite direction. However, 2 legs couldn't outrun 4 legs. Soon, Darren Hemiko was surrounded by the wolves. "Go find that person. Why are you all chasing me?" Darren was both scared and angry. Even these animals bullied people like this? Just then, Chen Zhao walked over slowly. "Look, I told you that your dagger is useless." Chen Zhao stood outside the wolf pack's encirclement. Darren stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. Why aren't they attacking you?" "The 2 biggest wolves are my pets. Do you expect them to attack me? You're thinking too much." "I'm joking. I was really joking." "Joking again?" Chen Zhao wasn't angry at Darren's reply. Smiling, he said, "Fine, I'm joking with you too. You can run now." "What are you talking about? You're going to watch me die." "Yes." Chen Zhao nodded and checked the time on his phone. "You can run for 5 minutes first. Then the wolves will chase you. If you're caught, you'll become part of them forever. I won't play this boring game with you." "Really? Do you think running is a boring game?" Chen Zhao looked at Darren. "Then you can wait here for 5 minutes. "Oh, you still have 4 minutes and 45 seconds, 42 seconds. Darren Hemiko suddenly broke into a run. He didn't dare to joke with his life. As he ran, Darren Hemiko suddenly saw a light in front of him. A town? Darren Hemiko was a little shocked, but he was more surprised than surprised. Darren Hemiko ran towards the light excitedly. Soon he realized that he was in the town. Help! Help! Things on Sharon's side were more or less settled. Alex was too difficult to deal with. Sharon couldn't even bring Murphy and Rebecca back to the police station. This made Sharon very depressed. At the same time, she hated Chen Zhao. "Captain, we found a lost person over there, and he's on the search and rescue list of the forest rescue team." "Why are you talking to me about this?" "Contact the local mountain rescue team and call an ambulance for him." Sharon waved her hand indifferently. "Captain, that person carries a dagger with him." "What's so strange about that?" "It's normal for people to carry a dagger in the desert." "Captain, look." The subordinate handed a dagger to Sharon. She took it and saw a mark on the handle, Cerberus. Sharon couldn't help but frown. "Where is he?" The subordinate brought Sharon to Darren Hemiko. "I'm going to call the police. Someone wants to kill me. Someone wants to kill me," Darren Hemiko shouted. "Who wants to kill you?" "You can tell us," Sharon said. "An Asian. That asterisk shoal met me in the desert and released a wolf pack to chase me. He wants the wolves to eat me." "Asian? Wolf pack?" Sharon's first thought was Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao had only left for less than an hour. How did he meet him in the desert again? Bullshit. Just then an old policeman shouted, "There are only 2 wolves in Chen's family, Black Ma and White Ma. They're 2 good kids." This was a policeman from the Dashin police station. Black Ma and White Ma would usually wander around the town. After spending more time with them, he naturally fell in love with Black Ma and White Ma. Sometimes Black Ma and White Ma would even help the police station and the townspeople. Sometimes, when the children in the town got lost, the 2 of them would volunteer to help look for them. With their sense of smell, they would most likely be able to find them. If someone said that Chen Zhao released a wolf to bite people, no one would believe it. Outsiders like Sharon might believe it, but the townspeople definitely wouldn't. Seeing this, Sharon knew that it was useless to ask Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao had 10,000 ways to avoid it. Even if it was true and Darren Hemiko's confession was useless. "What's the matter? Bring him back first." "Wait, I need treatment." I need to go to the hospital. Sir, I'll bring the doctor to you. As for the hospital, you don't have to go. Why? I'm a legal citizen. I have the right to ask for treatment at the hospital. I'm afraid not. I suspect that you're involved in some illegal organization and work, so you need to be investigated. Cerberus Research Base, is there any progress on number 6 accidental death? Muato, the security team sent an armed helicopter and a team to the coordinates sent by the locator, but they're all dead. The helicopter also crashed and attracted the police's attention. All dead? Are you sure you won't be exposed? Number 6 accidental death is an accident, but Darren Hamiko's betrayal is the biggest problem. You still haven't caught Darren Hamiko? He's already in the police's hands. Once his identity in our organization is exposed, our research base will be affected. It's best to move away before the police find us. How much information does Darren Hamiko know about us? Other than the location of the research base, he also stole 3 sets of research materials. What about his family? Muato asked coldly. When he joined our organization, it was premeditated. The information we found about his family has nothing to do with him. Even the longing he shows for his family is just an act. Go back and tell all the evolved people, Muato said. Also, pack up immediately. We have to leave in 3 days. 3 days is a bit of a rush. If possible, I want to leave now, but there is some equipment we can't abandon. What about the orders we have now? They're all from our old customers. We can't lose them. After thinking for a while, Muato said, 5 days. At most 5 days. We have to leave. Pack whatever you can. The research team and development team will leave for the second base first. The production line will be the last to pack. 9 Heavens, Divine King. Chapter 2492. Tiger. Tiger looked up at Bach, who was walking in. Bach, you haven't been here for 2 days. Tiger's tone was filled with dissatisfaction. Tiger, didn't you want to fight from abroad? I found one for you. Bach took out a contract. Huh? Who? How strong is he? What's his level? Tiger was immediately interested. A Russian boxer. He's in the same heavyweight category as you. Where's the venue? Where's the sponsor? How much is the prize money? He's a famous boxer too. He's already gotten $200 million in sponsorships. 200 million? Tiger sucked in a cold breath. That high? How do we split the prize money? Winner takes all, Bach said. Winner takes all? Does that mean I can get at least 200 million? Tiger was excited. The other party wants us to get more than $200 million. Otherwise, the contract's off. When's the fight? Next Friday. The arena is set in Russia. That means there's only 1 week left. Can we get that many sponsors? 200 million isn't a small amount. So you can't stay at home all day, Bach said. You have to have enough exposure in the media. Also, you have to spend some money to buy popularity. Got it. Tiger nodded. Oh, Bach, do you still have the devil's potion you gave me last time? Do you still want it? Bach looked at Tiger in shock. He didn't expect Tiger to make such a request. In the past, Tiger was such a proud person. He would scoff at any illegal drugs. But now he actually made such a request. He didn't know that Tiger's mentality had changed. On one hand, the devil's potion was very effective and had no obvious side effects. On the other hand, he was suddenly worried about this challenge. To be able to get $200 million in sponsorships meant that the other party's reputation couldn't be underestimated. Even if he stayed at his peak every year, it would be hard for him to win that much in the ring. The prize money from this match was enough for him to fight in the ring for a few years. Of course, he would pay more attention. Yes, but it's not cheap. Not cheap? How much? 10 million, Bach said. What, $10 million? Tiger suddenly stood up and stared at Bach angrily. Bach, you're too much. Are you trying to tell me that the medicine you gave me last time was worth $10 million? Even if you want to get money from me, you should at least find a reasonable reason. You can't just randomly raise the price tag, and it's such an outrageous price. He had also been working with Bach for some time. He roughly knew how much Bach was worth. His net worth was around 2 to 3 million USD. Would he spend $10 million to give her something? It was obviously impossible. Last time it was a trial product. The other party took the initiative to give it to you. It's not the real deal. Bah, he said in a calm tone, and the effect of the genuine product is better than the trial product. Think about it. Just the effect of the trial product has already allowed your strength to achieve a qualitative leap. Is the price of the genuine product still considered expensive? But this price is too expensive. Can you negotiate with the other party? There's no bargaining. This kind of medicine needs to be custom-made. It's not something you can buy even if you have money. Moreover, if you don't have contacts, you won't be able to buy it at all. Bach said, "Why don't I give you the contact information of the seller and you contact them yourself?" Forget it, you do the contact. Tiger knew he wasn't cut out for that. It was better to leave some things to Bach, even if he knew he would get a certain amount of commission. But there was no other way. Some things were worth Bach's responsibility. For example, if he contacted the other party and they recorded it, it would be a devastating blow to him. Whether it was a sports star or an entertainment star, they all needed agents and assistants. That was because most of the time they needed agents and assistants to contact people they weren't suitable to contact. Sign the contract so I can reply to them. Tiger didn't think too much and signed the contract quickly. Arrange for me to go abroad as soon as possible. I need to go there and adapt to the local environment in Russia. Rather than saying adapt, it was more like escaping. Bach muttered in his heart. Tiger was already so strong. How much did he fear that teacher of his? Got it. Bach nodded. I'll arrange it for you as soon as possible. Hello, Mr. Muwato, I'm Bach. We've contacted before. I remember you, Bach. You're the agent of a sports star, right? Yes, Mr. Muwato. I'm contacting you this time to buy a complete devil's mixture from you. Sure, but we need to move our production base, so we can't make it for you immediately. You'll have to wait for 2 weeks. Mr. Muwato, I need it urgently. We can negotiate the price. I'm not trying to bargain with you. We've indeed run into some trouble. We need to move our production base and lab. Mr. Muwato, don't you want to hear my price? Price? How much are you offering? $3 million, Bach said. Muwato's eyes flashed and he hesitated. His public price was $1 million for one mixture, and the price that he gave him was indeed very tempting. Although they'd already developed the finished product, they'd also started turning it into merchandise, but it was still in the beginning stages. They couldn't break even yet. Also, they ran into trouble recently. The entire lab had to be moved. That was another large sum of money. He'd already invested all the money he could. There was still a huge gap. $5 million. Just as Muwato was about to reply, Bach raised the price again. Mr. Muwato, you know that I'm the agent of a sports star. In my company, there are many sports stars. We'll need more than one. As long as you're willing to help me, I'll be your biggest client in the near future. $5 million. Muwato was finally tempted. Bring me the hair and blood samples as soon as possible. It's best if you can provide them to me today. Sure. Happy cooperation. Happy working with you. Muwato thought to himself. Although time was tight, Bach's suggestion was indeed tempting. Jiu Tian, Divine Emperor. Chapter 2493. Muwato contacted his superior again. Mr. Vincent. What's the matter? One of our researchers betrayed us. He escaped from the institute and took some research data with him. According to our insider, the researcher is now in the hands of the police. I don't know how much information Darren Heimko will expose about the institute, and I don't know what the government will do after obtaining this information. However, there is a high probability that the research base will be exposed. Currently, I am arranging for the relocation of the institute, but time is running out. If the government takes action earlier than we expected and mobilizes the army, then the institute is likely to be destroyed. How much force do you expect the government will mobilize? There's something very dangerous in the research data that Darren Haimko stole. So, I think that once the government analyzes this data, it's very likely that they won't allow us to exist. So, they'll send a regiment of soldiers, and they'll probably carry heavy weapons. If the U.S. Army uses heavy weapons to wipe out our research institute, the ground units will suffer a devastating blow. At that time, our ground defense system will be destroyed for no reason. I will send some forces to defend you. Mr. Vincent, should we focus on retreating? It's just a regular regiment of armed forces. It's still within the acceptable range. Muoto could feel that Vincent's tone was full of confidence and even expectation. In addition, there is one more thing. One of our experimental subjects, Evolver number 6, was killed when he was collecting data in the real environment. The tracking device installed on Evolver number 6 was also taken away. When I sent an armed team to investigate, they also encountered an accident. Mr. Vincent, should I increase the number of people I have? You didn't put the experimental subjects in a densely populated area, did you? Not in a densely populated area, but in a forest area about 40 kilometers away from a small town. Have you found out the identity of the other party? A young man in his early 20s. All I can find out is that he is a rich man's security guard. He is responsible for patrolling the forests and pastures around the rich man's manor. There is no special information about him. Have you investigated the rich man? According to the local investigation, the rich man's net worth is more than $1 billion. Try not to provoke this kind of person, Vincent said. Even though he had absolute power, he did not want to provoke rich people. Rich people were a very troublesome group in this country. They would fight among themselves for benefits, but if a force from outside their circle intervened and harmed any of them, they would become extremely united. And every single one of them had unparalleled influence. If the entire group united, they could even shake an entire country. Thus, even Vincent did not like to provoke these rich people. Chin, Tiger has already signed the contract. The competition is next Friday, and the arena is in Moscow, Russia. Moscow, Russia? Chun Zhao frowned. Why there? It's too far away. Chun Zhao planned to watch the competition, but the venue was set there. This gave him a headache. In principle, he was not willing to go so far for such a small matter. At present, in addition to the North American region, several other top heavyweight boxers are from Eastern Europe. In addition, most of the broadcast rights were sold to European television stations. Okay, leave some tickets for me, Chen Zhao said. Chin, you can guarantee that Syndicate will win, right? Yes. I won't joke with my $200 million. That means I'll definitely make money if I bet with the underground banker, right? What are the odds for Tiger and Syndicate in the underground market now? 1-0-4-2. 44, Alex said. Is the odds that high? They're not on the same level in terms of strength and fame. If he bet a lot, can the underground banker pay that much? Chin, if you bet a few $100 million, the underground banker will definitely go back on his word. But if it's only a few tens of millions, the underground banker will consider your strength and won't risk offending you. Help me place a bet of $50 million US. Also, keep an eye on the banker. If he does anything wrong, let me know. Chin, are you sure you want to bet $50 million? It's quite risky. I've already bet $200 million. Why would I care about $50 million? Fine. You're the boss. Whatever you say. I'll bet $5 million too. As soon as Chen Zhao hung up, he received a call from West. President, I need to discuss something with you. What? I heard you're organizing a boxing match, right? Yes. What's wrong? Our association still has more than $10 million left this year. You want to bet too? Yes. If we can make money this time, we'll have more funds next year. Sure. Chen Zhao had no reason to reject West's suggestion. But I've already bet $50 million. If you add another $10 million, the underground banker will definitely feel the pressure. It's hard to guarantee that they won't skip the bet. President, it's not $10 million. It's a total of $30 million. Everyone in the association with some savings wants to bet with you. Even Aduz has $300,000. It doesn't matter, Chen Zhao said. It's not a lot. The underground banker has to pay us. If he got the meat, there was no reason he couldn't let his subordinates drink the soup. Chen Zhao thought about it, putting aside whether the underground banker could pay that much money. First, he had to let Sin win, but then he considered Tiger's abnormal growth in power. Chen Zhao couldn't help but suspect whether Tiger had used a second method to increase his power other than his own. If that was the case with the training he gave Sin and the method to stimulate his potential, he might not be able to win for sure. It seemed that Chen Zhao had to make Sin even more powerful. Then he called Gaia. Chen Zhao hadn't told the association about the match between Sin and Tiger. Only Gaia knew about it, so Gaia must have told the association. Gaia probably invested a lot of money too. Chapter 2494. Xian Jia. Today's training ends here, Gaia called. Xian Jia looked at Gaia in surprise. It's only been an hour. Why are you so fast? Not only was the training duration wrong, but the way it ended was also wrong. Every time Gaia finished training, Xian Jia would KO him with one punch. Then he would spasm on the ground for 20 minutes or pass out. But this time, Gaia only told him verbally that the training was over. Why is today's training so short? Your boss has other plans for you. Other plans. For some reason, Xian Jia had a bad feeling about this. I'll take you to see your boss. Sitting in Gaia's car, Xian Jia felt like he was about to escape. For some reason, the closer he got to his destination, the more danger he felt. But Gaia kept driving with one hand and leaning against the window with the other. The car sped down the road in the forest. Xian Jia was worried that the car would fly off the road at any moment. The car drove all the way to a building in the depths of the forest. Xian Jia saw an old man sitting in the security room at the entrance. He only opened the door after Gaia called him. The 4-story building in front of him was built horizontally, and it looked more like a modern style. But for some reason, Xian Jia always had a creepy feeling. Many eyes seemed to be staring at him from the glass windows of the building. Just then, Chen Zhao walked out of the headquarters. He walked to Gaia's car. Xian Jia, why aren't you getting off? Boss. Xian Jia gulped. Boss, where is this? It's none of your business, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Just then, a crane drove over. There was a 5-meter-wide pot hanging on its arm. Under Gaia's command, the pot was placed on the rack. Go into the pot, Chen Zhao said. Boss, this joke isn't funny at all. I'm not joking. Go in. You want to cook me? My intention isn't to cook you, but the process is similar. Xian Jia's expression stiffened. Seeing Chen Zhao's serious gaze, he suddenly turned to run. But as soon as he turned around, Gaia punched his stomach. Xian Jia fell to the ground in pain. However, he did not lose consciousness. He could feel Gaia lifting him up. Then, with a forceful throw, Xian Jia was thrown several meters into the air before being thrown into the cauldron. Then, a large amount of liquid was poured in. It was a very fishy smell. It seemed to be the blood of some animal. Syndicate had also regained some of his strength. He wanted to climb out of the cauldron. However, the curved edges and the slippery bottom of the pot made it impossible for him to reach the edge of the pot, much less climb out. Just then, another large bone was thrown in from outside. Then there were all kinds of herbs. Syndicate was getting more and more terrified. This step was like stewing soup. He was the main ingredient, and just now he was the seasoning. The pot began to heat up, and Xian Jia's struggle became more and more intense. But due to the limitations of the pot's shape, no matter how much he struggled, it was useless. Just then, Hinga saw a few young people on the rooftop of the building. They were leaning against the fence and looking down at the situation below. Zinga immediately waved his hand. Help, help, help me. The few people also noticed Syndicate and waved with a smile. But they had no objections, and no one went to save him. Syndicate did not understand what was going on here. What was wrong with these people? Also, what was Chun Zhao and Gaia doing? He could not understand. He could not understand. Chun Zhao had clearly invested so much in him. Why would he do this? Could it be that everything that happened before was just a fool? Syndicate thought about how Chun Zhao had shown his bad taste many times before. He suddenly felt that this was the real Chun Zhao. He had given himself hope, then killed himself in a cruel way. The water temperature rose very slowly, but this increased Syndicate's fear. Syndicate suddenly felt that Chun Zhao was going to cook him. Then it seemed reasonable for him to disgust Chun Zhao before he died. The water was still heating up. Determined to die, Syndicate polluted the water in the pot. However, Syndicate waited for half an hour. The water temperature remained around 60 degrees. It was hot, but not scalding. Another half an hour passed. Suddenly, Syndicate realized that the pot was tilting. As if he had grasped the hope of survival, Syndicate jumped out of the pot. Syndicate rolled on the ground a few times. Syndicate stood up and started running. But before he could take a step, his foot was hooked and he rolled on the ground. "Where are you going?" Chun Zhao asked Syndicate. "I've had enough of you. You bunch of lunatics," Syndicate roared and jumped up, as if he was going to fight Chun Zhao. "President, I bet $800,000 on him," an elite said, clenching his fists. "Don't fight. Let me do it." Xian Jia glanced at an elite. What kind of person did he think he was? This man wasn't that strong. Syndicate swung his fist at an elite. However, an elite was faster than him and easily dodged Syndicate's attack. Then he threw an uppercut and Syndicate fell to the ground. Thankfully, this punch felt weaker than Gaia's. But soon he was controlled again. Then he was thrown back into the pot. The water in the pot was changed again. Then he was added. Finally, he was thrown in. Syndicate felt like he was going crazy. Either these people were crazy or they were crazy. This time, Syndicate gave up resisting and let the lunatics cook him. But 2 hours later, Syndicate realized that he wasn't cooked. It was just a repeat of the previous process. He was thrown out of the pot, then the water was changed, and the ingredients were added. He was sent into the pot for the third time. The first time he thought it was because he had polluted the pot, but the second time he accepted his fate. They still changed the water for him. Syndicate couldn't understand this strange and mysterious action at all. Then he went in and out of the pot for the fourth time and the fifth time. Syndicate cooked from afternoon to past 10 at night. "Okay, you can come down now." When Syndicate came down from the pot, Gaia tossed him a set of clothes. "Put it on. Today's special event is over." Syndicate was confused. What the hell was going on today? He thought that he would be cooked and then eaten by these terrifying perverts. But nothing happened. He couldn't understand what these people were doing at all. Was it an evil ritual like those in movies? Divine Emperor of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2495. On the way back, Hinga once again sat in Gaia's car, although he was not very willing. But considering the journey back to the city, he finally sat in Gaia's car. "What did you do to me?" Gaia silently looked at Hinga. "To make you stronger." "Stronger? That method that looks like witchcraft can make me stronger?" Suddenly, Gaia lifted her leg and kicked Hinga's body without warning. Hinga was still in a daze. His whole body smashed through the car door and fell out of the high-speed car. He rolled a few times on the road and was covered with bruises. Hinga struggled to get up. At this moment, he was still in a daze. Then he saw Gaia suddenly turn the car in front of him. Hinga swallowed his saliva and looked at the car in front of him in horror. Madman, you are all madmen. What are you doing? Are you trying to kill me? Virum! Gaia stepped on the accelerator, and the car directly crashed into Hinga. Ah! Hinga screamed. His whole body suddenly jumped up and did a 360-degree somersault in the air. The car raced beneath him. Hinga could not believe that he could actually do such a move. Moreover, it was in such an emergency situation. But his feet just landed on the ground, and he did not have time to stand firm. The rear of Gaia's car suddenly swung over. It directly hit Hinga and sent him flying, landing on the grass by the roadside. Gaia got down from the car. Ah, I will kill you! Hinga gathered his courage and directly jumped towards Gaia. But the next moment, Gaia lifted her leg and directly kicked Hinga away. Zinger slammed into the trunk of a sapling behind him. The tree was directly broken. Hinga covered his back. What are you trying to do? Stand up and hit me. Hinga's chest heaved up and down. He grabbed the tree on the ground and rushed towards Gaia. Crack! Bang! Gaia smashed the tree with her fist and then swept her leg across Hinga's face. Xinjia somersaulted in midair and fell to the ground in a sorry state. But this time, Hinga did not need to say anything. Hinga stood up. However, his determination did not last long. He could not straighten his back under Gaia's punches. Singa picked up a boulder that weighed more than 20 kilograms, raised it above his head, and smashed it towards Gaia. Bang! Gaia's fist thundered out. Xinjia's mouth was wide open. The stone was smashed into pieces by Gaia's fist. How terrifying! How much power and how hard was the fist needed to smash the stone into smithereens? What exactly do you want? Sinka roared. He couldn't beat her, but this woman was simply a Tyrannosaurus. Don't you think it's strange? I just used 3 times my usual strength, and you've already suffered so many blows, but you can still stand up. This. Hearing Gaia's words, Syndicate suddenly realized something. Did you really use 3 times your normal strength just now? Gaia suddenly turned around and punched the trunk of a nearby tree. She blasted a dent into the tree trunk. Xinjia felt his scalp go numb. The female Tyrannosaurus in front of him was a monster with no limits. Both your boss and I have invested a lot of money in you. Of course, there are other things besides money. If you fail, it will be a huge loss for us. As revenge, we will directly fill you with cement and then sink you into the sea. So don't doubt our determination. We are willing to pay any price to win. Don't think that what we do is meaningless. It may seem strange to you, but it doesn't mean that it's meaningless. Including throwing me into a pot to cook today. In China, there is a special method. It is to put medicine and beast bones into a pot and then let people soak in it. Their bodies will absorb the medicine and improve their fitness, Gaia said. Even now, there are still such steaming baths in China. Your boss is an expert in this. He knows better than anyone how to improve a person's fitness. Before you and Tiger, he had 2 other successful cases. They were both the best athletes in their respective fields. Tiger was supposed to be the 3rd, but now your boss wants to destroy him. You will be his replacement. So, I wasn't cooked today. I was just in a steaming bath. Is that what you mean? Other than the fact that you contaminated the first pot, your steaming bath is quite effective, Gaia said calmly. And the soup that you've contaminated will also enter your body along with the medicinal power and be absorbed by you. Although it won't cause you any harm. Haven't you noticed that your body is filled with a smell? Fortunately, you didn't go overboard or else. Gaia said indifferently. Syndicate wanted to cry. He suddenly realized that he had done something stupid. Very, very stupid. Something that even made his stomach turn. This smell. What should I do? It's okay. 2 or 3 days of metabolism will expel these substances. Exercise more and sweat more. It can make your metabolism faster. So, you kick me out of the car to injure me and increase my metabolism. No, it's because I can't stand your smell, Gaia said calmly. Gaia said indifferently, also, I need you to pay for the maintenance of my car. I'll put it on you for the time being. Why me? You can discuss this with me when you can beat me. Syndicate was speechless. Even though he felt like he had changed, he still felt helpless when facing Gaia. He couldn't even block a single move. Even now, he was barely able to prevent himself from being knocked out by Gaia with a single punch. When have I ever been able to beat you? No, can I barely fight you? Although I don't want to discourage you, this idea will only exist in your dreams most of the time. All right, maybe I should focus on how to win this match. Syndicate waved his fists. He felt that his injuries weren't that painful anymore. I should be strong enough to beat Tiger now, right? I'm not sure, but to ensure that you win, I think your boss will give you special training. Will I continue the steaming bath? I don't know. Anyway, he has a way. Just then, Gaia's phone rang again. After picking up, Gaia said to Syndicate, Look, your new lesson is here again. Chapter 2496. Muoto watched as a military truck drove into the base. Then he opened the trunk and found that there was no light in the trunk. When he shone the light into the trunk, he saw 2 rows of soldiers sitting inside. But it wasn't exactly right to call them soldiers. They were a metal device on their faces that completely blinded their eyes. There was a red, flashing stripe on the metal device. It seemed to be a sensing device used to replace the eyes. There was a number on their shaved heads. Their bodies were thick and tall, and each of them was close to 2 meters tall. Their skin was slightly dark, and they were equipped with a strange gun and a dagger. Suddenly, a ray of light lit up in the deepest part of the truck. Muochuo was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. He saw a tall man coming out from the deepest part of the truck. He was also wearing a metal device and had a shaved head. The only difference was that he wasn't equipped with a dagger because there was a machete on his left arm. You are Laner Dodge. You can also call me number BA1. Muoto realized that Laner Dodge didn't speak, but he could hear his dull voice. His voice came from a hole in his neck. Muoto realized that there was a metallic luster under the skin around the hole that hadn't been closed yet. There seemed to be a piece of metal under the skin of his neck. No, maybe it wasn't his neck, but his entire body. There were pieces of metal under his skin. I was sent by the boss, Laner Dodge said. Muoto's expression changed slightly. When he first met Vincent, he always thought that Vincent was the boss. Later, he called Vincent boss, but Vincent said that he wasn't the boss and that the boss was someone else. He didn't expect the boss to send people over this time. My team and I are responsible for all the safety here. We will take care of all the hidden dangers from the outside. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming, Mr. Laner. Muoto said welcome, but in reality he didn't think so. Although the team sent by the boss seemed to be unique, there were already over 100 people in the lab. However, there were already hundreds of such armed forces in the laboratory. Whether it was firepower or combat power, they were several times stronger than the people in the carriage. The combat power provided by the boss seemed to be meaningless to the overall situation. After all, they were now facing an army equipped with the most powerful weapons in the world, and it was at least a regiment's worth of troops and firepower. This small number of troops, along with the laboratory's original armed forces, might not be able to withstand a wave of carpet attacks from the other side. What was the concept of an American carpet? The capital of a country in the Middle East had once enjoyed a carpet. It was no different from razing the place to the ground. Unless they were hiding in a building 100 meters underground, it would be difficult to ensure their safety above ground. I heard from the boss that you have some unnatural animal experiments here, right? Muoto replied calmly. Can I have a look? Here? Of course. They are wild beasts. I know. Muoto thought for a moment. Randall Dodge was sent by the boss after all. It wasn't the right time for her to argue with him. Kevin, send a mature, evolved human to the surface. Muoto, are you sure? I'm sure. Bring it up. I know what I'm doing. Not long after, a beast cage was brought over. The four sides of the cage were covered with metal sheets, and it was very light when the crane lowered it. Open it, Randall said. What? Open it now. That's right. You're crazy. Evolved humans hate light. Once it comes into contact with light, it will either hide in a cave or lose control and start a massacre. You can hide in a safe place. I know. Randall said calmly, there are mature ones at the boss's place, and one is their ancestor. All evolved humans are made from the ancestor's cells. Muoto was stunned. Ancestor? He had asked many times where the cells used to create evolvers came from, and now he finally got the answer. It was a primogenitor. As he spoke, Randall Dodge suddenly punched the metal sheet that the evolved human was locked in. Then he lifted it forcefully, and the entire metal sheet was blown away. Roar! It was a black beast that was more than 4 meters long. Its body blended perfectly with the shadows. If one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't even notice its existence. It did not immediately rush out of the cage. Instead, it stood in the shadows, but its bloodthirsty eyes were already emitting a cruel intent. Suddenly, it launched an attack, pouncing towards Randall Dodge without any warning. Just when Muoto thought that Randall Dodge was going to die and he was about to find a safe place to hide, Randall Dodge pressed the black beast onto the ground with one hand. Muoto and Kevin beside him were dumbfounded. After all, it was an adult evolved human. Their strength is greater than that of the strongest land predators in the world. But at this moment, the adult evolved human was pressed to the ground by Laner Dodge with one hand. Randall Dodge pressed his palm against the evolved human's eyes and mumbled. Gradually, the evolved human calmed down. At this moment, Randall Dodge pricked his finger and wiped it on the evolved human's nose. Roar! The evolved human howled. Muoto was confused. He didn't understand why he did this. After a while, Randall retracted his hand from the evolved human's eyes and let go of the evolved human. The evolved human was no longer in a frenzied state after coming into contact with light, and he behaved himself in front of Randall Dodge. What did you do to it? I've been modified too. I can see that. In terms of biological structure, we belong to different species. In fact, the modifications I received are closely related to it. It could even be said that we share the same origin. That's why I can use my blood to make it remember me and turn it into my pet at the same time. You only need to wipe blood on its nose. Indeed. Is it the same for your soldiers? They're different from me. I'm modified and they're made. Laner, boss only sent you and your men down. It doesn't seem enough. Can you contact our boss and ask him to send more soldiers? No need. We're enough. Chapter 2497. Tiger, here's what you need. Impatiently, Tiger snatched the box from Box Hands. Different from the colorless potion last time, the complete version was filled with dreamy colors. How do I use it? Just take it directly. Same as last time. Impatiently, Tiger poured the potion into his mouth. Drink. Tiger slowly felt the potion flow into his stomach and then spread. It was an unbelievable feeling. It felt like all the cells in his body were alive. Then Tiger felt something sticky on his body. He reached out and touched his skin. Sticky dirt actually appeared on his skin. What's going on? Why does the dirt keep coming out of my body? Tiger didn't understand. He could only rinse his body. But soon, the dirt he rinsed off came out of his pores again. But compared to the first time, the amount was obviously much less. Tiger could only rinse again, but then the dirt came out of his skin again. Tiger rinsed a few times. Finally, the dirt stopped coming out of his skin. Tiger, on the other hand, felt an incomparable feeling. His vision and hearing all underwent terrifying changes. Tiger could even hear the flapping of the mosquitoes hiding under the sofa. He could even see the dragonflies laying eggs in the water across the pool. At the same time, Tiger felt hungry. Very hungry. He started to eat. Crazily. Cerberus Lab. Muato, come here and take a look. Kevin pulled Muato over. Look at what? These are the cells left behind by one of our clients when he applied for customization. Kevin moved away from the microscope. Muato looked at the microscope. In the microscope, he saw normal cells absorbing the nutrient solution. Isn't this normal? Is there a problem? Look a bit longer, Kevin said. Muato continued to observe. Just then, he saw the cells swell a bit. What's going on? How did the cells swell so much? Not only did this customer's cells expand, but they didn't die faster. Instead, they survived longer. The skin cells extracted from the skin tissue provided by him should have survived for about 14 hours. But after absorbing the potion, his cells survived for more than 18 hours, and their activity was greatly increased. Moreover, after absorbing a small amount of poison, they automatically excreted the poison. Unless they were completely immersed in the poison, their skin cells wouldn't die. The devil's elixir they developed was one of their main research topics. However, the devil's potion was not a complete product. Although the devil's elixir could greatly improve the human body's functions, it was not enough. However, it would cause people to be easily angered. According to the research on cells, it was found that after the cells absorbed the drug, the rate of cell death would increase. His cells, which had a lifespan of more than 10 hours, would shrink by 50%. Thus, the devil's potion could only be considered a half-finished product. However, in order to get back the research funding, and even if a normal person took the drug, it would be difficult for them to discover the side effects. Therefore, as a research organization, the Cerberus organization did not care about this side effect. However, at this moment, they discovered that not only did one of their customers not have any side effects, but the effects of the devil's potion were even better than others. This was simply the perfect embodiment of the product they had developed. Why is it like this? Did you find the reason? Other than the difference in blood type, everything else is the same. Who's this customer? A boxer. He's very famous and rich. Think of a way to bring him to the lab, no matter what, Muato said. Muato said, he might be the direction of our research. He is a perfect material. I've already sent someone to follow him, but he seems to have gone overseas for a competition. Use our connections overseas. No matter what, we have to bring him here, Muato said. His value is immeasurable. Maybe we can give him a defeat, Kevin said meaningfully. Under normal circumstances, if we don't use conventional means, we won't be able to get this kind of rich and powerful person to follow us. But what if we let him fail? An unprecedented loss. Feilai, are you going to Russia? No. Feilai rejected Chen Zhao's invitation without hesitation. She knew why Chen Zhao was going to Russia. She was not interested in boxing or the competition. Fine, then I'll have to go alone. Chen Zhao nodded. The topic ended there. Come back early. Don't stay outside for too long. Got it. Spare his life. At least he used to be your student. If I wanted to kill him, he'd be dead already. In modern society, the best way to destroy a person was not to destroy their body, but to destroy everything they had. The next day, Chen Zhao boarded a flight to Moscow. It was still the flight he hated the most. It was almost 10,000 kilometers away. Apart from flying, there was no other choice. To deal with this flight, Chen Zhao had to kill time by taking out a large number of movies and TV shows. After a 20-hour flight, Chen Zhao finally set foot in Moscow. Moscow was very cold in January. One could even feel the bleakness and desolation in Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport. Compared to Los Angeles, which was also an international metropolis, the number of passengers here was half. After leaving the airport, there was a long line of taxis outside, but no one came down to help the passengers with their luggage. Even the locals did not like the cold wind here. This was Chen Zhao's first time traveling alone. In the past, he'd either been accompanied by Feilai or a member of the association. Otherwise, he'd been accompanied by Portia. This time, Alex was also coming, but she'd arrived 2 days earlier. Of course, Alex was also temporarily acting as Chun Zhao's assistant. She helped him arrange his itinerary in Moscow. In return, Chun Zhao would also be responsible for Alex's expenses in Moscow. On the way to the hotel, Chun Zhao called Gaia. Gaia, how's Syndicate's training? Not bad. His improvement is unexpectedly good. There's less than 3 days left. Tell him to come to Moscow as soon as possible. It's much colder here than LA. He needs to get used to the temperature here. I'll go with him tomorrow. You can arrange things there first. Fine. I shouldn't have come so early. I don't like it here. It's too cold. It's at least -5 degrees Celsius today. I don't like it either, but considering that I can earn a lot of money this time, I gritted my teeth and endured it. Chapter 2498. After all, Syndicate had experienced quite a few professional matches. He had even accepted the challenge in the arena, but this time he felt unprecedented fear. At the airport, he'd already gone to the toilet 5 times. What are you afraid of? Gaia glanced at Syndicate casually. I'm really worried that you'll pee your pants on the plane. If that's the case, you better not say you know me. I just drank too much water. I'll go to the toilet. Syndicate smiled, but his smile seemed forced. Syndicate hurried to the toilet. Just then, someone came out. Syndicate knocked the person to the ground. Sorry. Helplessly, Syndicate pulled the person up. It's okay. Syndicate didn't mind, but the person looked back at Syndicate. Manager, it's done. Good. Send it over. It didn't take long for Muato and Kevin to obtain Syndicate's skin tissue. Syndicate didn't realize it at all. After all, he didn't need to pierce the skin to collect the tissue. He only needed to rub a rough object against the skin. On the plane, Syndicate didn't kill time by watching movies. Instead, he watched boxing videos. Of course, most of them were Tiger's matches. From these videos, it was obvious that Tiger's strength had a step-by-step growth process. Syndicate could even see that Tiger didn't go easy in any of the matches. He'd won every match with ease, even the match he'd fixed with Syndicate. He clearly had absolute strength, but his agent still superfluously asked him to fix the match. Of course, even if Syndicate really fought with him, he probably couldn't beat him. But now Syndicate understood. Their starting points were different. After receiving Chun Zhao's potential stimulation and Gaia's training, Syndicate also deeply experienced the process of a person evolving into a Superman. As long as he didn't compare himself to Gaia, Syndicate felt that he was a Superman. Tiger must have walked the same path as him back then. In the entire boxing world, there was no boxer who could fight against Tiger. He wasn't in the same dimension as the other boxers. However, in the near future, he would challenge Tiger. At the same time, he would challenge his position. And he was the only one who had a chance to challenge Tiger, because he'd had the same experience as Tiger. Muato, I've discovered something. What is it? I took a skin sample from Tiger's opponent and found the same result as Tiger. What? It's not just the same. Based on the cell sample alone, his cells have a more obvious reaction to the drug than Tiger's. The effect is also better. Do all boxers have this effect? No. After I got the preliminary results, I asked someone to find skin samples from a dozen boxers in L. But their results were the same as normal people. Only Tiger and his opponent had this strange phenomenon. In other words, this kind of experimental result is not a natural result, and there is some kind of connection between them, right? That should be it. Then bring both of them here. We should be able to get some clues from their mouths. In that case, should we still use the Devil's Potion on this Syndicate? Let him use it. If one side uses it and the other doesn't, then the match will be too boring. Let me see how these two boxers, who are perfectly compatible with the Devil's Potion, perform in the ring. There was still 1 day before the match. Syndicate had already started his adaptation training. These 2 days, Gaia's punches were especially gentle. At least, she wouldn't knock him out for no reason. This hotel's food sucks. Syndicate swallowed his food with difficulty, but he still tried his best to finish it. Really? I think it's pretty good, Gaia said calmly. I'm going back to my room. Syndicate didn't like hotel food. He only felt 60% full, but he couldn't eat outside, because in the hotel he could ask the hotel to order food. But if he ate outside, he might violate the international rules of using contraband food. When Syndicate returned to his room, he realized that his clothes were sticky. He took off his clothes and realized that his clothes and body were all sticky with a black substance. What's going on? After rinsing, the black substance seeped out of his skin again. This repeated a few times. After 2 hours, the black substance finally stopped seeping out. Worried, Syndicate called Gaia. Ms. Gaia, I don't know if there's something wrong with my body. My skin keeps seeping out black substance. Hearing that, Gaia immediately went to Syndicate's room. What kind of black substance? Oh, it's the black substance on your clothes. Seeing the black substance, Gaia suddenly remembered that she'd also gone through the stage. That time, she'd taken the medicine Chen Zhao had provided, and the same thing happened that night. Later, Chen Zhao had said that the black substance was the poison in her body. In his words, it was cleansing her meridians. This wasn't a bad thing. On the contrary, expelling the poison in her body was very good for her body. This is a good thing. It expelled the poison and impurities in your body, Gaia said. Your body has probably improved again. Is that so? Haven't you realized that your senses have all improved? I think so. I can even hear the sounds in the room downstairs. Eavesdropping isn't a good habit. Also, if you don't control the spread of your hearing, it'll be a huge obstacle to your life. So, you need to learn to control your ability. Ms. Gaia, can you do it too? What you're experiencing now, I've experienced it before, and my reaction is even stronger than yours. In the beginning, I could hear all the sounds in the entire building, while you could only hear the sounds from the nearby floors. However, this sudden improvement is also beneficial for you in the competition. In the ring, even if you have your back to your opponent, you can still sense the angle and direction of the opponent's attack. Then I can compete with my eyes closed. In principle, yes, but you'd better be responsible for our bets. Whether it's me or your boss, we don't want our investments to go down the drain. Divine King of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2499. Bach, I heard a woman on the phone. You've only been in Moscow for a few days, and you've already hooked up with a woman here? It's a client. Bach glanced at Tiger. Ever since Tiger had taken the potion, his ears had become sharper and sharper. He could even hear the call from a dozen meters away. This made him more careful when he spoke on the phone. I'm going to meet a client, Bach said. Come back early. Oh, arrange 2 women for me. The competition is tomorrow, Bach said, frowning. To me, it doesn't matter who I'm competing against. All right. Bach could still feel the changes in Tiger. Both physically and mentally, Tiger had changed greatly. Tiger was getting more and more arrogant. He didn't even train these days. He just let himself go every day. Bach left the hotel and hurried to the place where he and Alex were supposed to meet. When they arrived at the restaurant, Bach found Alex, but there was an Asian man sitting next to her. Miss Alex. Bach came to their table. This gentleman is my boss, Chen, Alex said. Mr. Chen, hello. Bach nodded slightly. How's Tiger these days? Chen Zhao was here to get some information. He'd seen Tiger's videos before. Tiger's growth was clearly abnormal. So, Chen Zhao kept an eye on him. Tiger hasn't trained these days, Bach said. Most of the time he's with the prostitute. If it was someone else, Chen Zhao wouldn't have any objections. He would even think that it was a normal way to satisfy his physical needs. But Chen Zhao hated Tiger even more. That's for the best, Alex said. The worse Tiger is, the more stable our profits will be. She'd bet $5 million on the underground dealer. She wouldn't lose everything, but if she lost, she'd definitely be hurt. Tiger used something to strengthen his body, right? Chen Zhao suddenly said. Bok looked at Qin Zhao in surprise. Did this Chinese guy know? No, there shouldn't be many people who know about this. Even in the black market, one had to have enough connections to be able to touch it. He was just guessing. Bok suddenly thought of a problem. In Los Angeles, he'd been afraid of Qin Zhao and Alex, because the two of them held the most powerful force in the United States. Rich people can do whatever they want in that country. One was a lawyer, a top lawyer. She could also wield the weapon of the law to attack any of her enemies. But here in Moscow, their influence could not reach. Bok happened to have some connections here that allowed him to contact the local gangs in Moscow. A crazy idea appeared in his mind, especially Qin Zhao. Under his obscure gaze, Chen Zhao was like a moving treasury. If he succeeded, he would get a much more generous reward here than in the underground lottery. That's enough. Let's call it a day. Qin Zhao stood up. He was not interested in talking to Bok anymore. Bok could not provide him with any more information. He didn't know anything about most of her questions. Chen Zhao could feel that he was purposely trying to fool him. But Chen Zhao did not care. After the competition, he would settle the score once and for all. Qin Zhao and Alex went back in the car. However, the two of them realized that the car didn't seem to be heading to their hotel. Qin, there's something wrong with this driver. Yeah, I noticed. Chen Zhao nodded. The tattoo on his collar should be the symbol of a local gang, Alex said. What do we do now? Call the police? Let's wait and see where he's taking us. It's very dangerous. Alex frowned. Do you want me to take the risk with you? Of course not. I'll protect you. After all, you're little Larissa's aunt. We're not in LA now. The Moscow gangs won't fall for that. Did you forget? I'm good at fighting. Alex sighed. Fine, I hope they won't use guns. Oh, is it legal in Russia? Yes, but it's very strict. These gangs don't have as many guns as normal people, Alex said, but it's still very high. Just then, their driver was talking to someone on the car's walkie-talkie. Boss, where are we going now? It's at the abandoned factory in the suburbs. Are the two people in the car suspicious? I don't think so. If they are, they'll call the police or cause a ruckus. They probably don't realize what car they're in. Good. Oh, don't use guns. It's a big fish. If you accidentally kill him, you'll have to sell your ass in Africa. Alex glanced at Qin Zhao. They're indeed a gang. Luckily, they think you're a big fish, so they won't use guns. Do you know Russian? I'm proficient in 7 foreign languages, Alex said. I'm learning the 8th, Japanese. Just then, the car stopped in front of an old factory. Judging from the weeds and damage on the road, it had been a long time since there were any cars here. Just then, Chen Zhao suddenly raised his foot and kicked the back of the front seat. The driver in the front seat hit the steering wheel and was knocked out by the airbag. What are you doing? Chen Zhao found the driver's gun and tossed it to Alex. Take it for self-protection. What about now? Are you going to stay in the car or go in with me? I don't like being left alone in the middle of the night, Alex said. Then let's go in and see what's the difference between the gangs in Moscow and LA. Alex wasn't an inexperienced little girl. She had interacted with people from many fields, including gangs. She would be scared, but she wouldn't back down. Oh, I remember you saw me kill people before, right? Yes, when we met in San Francisco, you killed someone in front of me to investigate the truth behind Glenn's murder. So don't be too surprised if I use any bloody methods this time. Try to be gentle. After all, I ate a lot for dinner. Have you gotten heavier recently? Do you want to buy a slimming treatment? Divine King of the 9 heavens,